We are teetering on the brink of the 2025 Cheltenham Festival, so it is time for Road to Cheltenham's preview programme. Ruby Walsh and I are here at a rather damp and mizzly and misty Cheltenham, but the talking isn't quite over.
Is it ever over?
Yeah, I suppose there's a brief pause while the races are actually run.
Just about. But yeah, it is misty. Track looks in good condition. It's ready to take whatever rain is forecast this afternoon as well. John Poolen has it exactly where he said he would, but it will take whatever rain falls.
Yeah, well, good to soft officially as of this morning, and we felt it was on the tighter side, like the softer end of good to soft. It's the other side.
The other side, but there is rain forecast, and they always have the scope to water more if they want to. So no, it's in good. And say he's happy where he is.
OK, so format of the show, you'll be used to this. We concentrate on all the Grade 1s. There'll be some other business as well along the way. We go Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and wait, obviously, for the declarations to come through for Wednesday and do that last. And we'll have all the last-minute news as well. And most importantly, in many ways, we'll also have some on-the-site, on-the-track news, because, as is traditional, we are joined for interviews and opinion throughout these 2 hours by Nick Luck.
And I have hot-footed it, Lydia, down to the middle of the course. This is where Willie Mullins' huge string exercises every morning, in common with all the visiting horses, both from the different parts of Britain and, of course, from Ireland. And this mare here, not a bother on her. This is the mare's hurdle favourite, Lossiemouth, and stable jockey Paul Townend. He will be riding her in the mare's hurdle. She looks great, having a lovely pick of grass. She's been out with all the others this morning, and let's face it, she doesn't know which race she's running in. Just to give you an idea of the scale of Williams' raid on Cheltenham, just look at this. This is only about a fifth of the Cheltenham team here, coming over in 2 loads on the boat, and the trainer himself is just over my left shoulder. I'll be having a chat with him in a few moments' time. As for conditions, Lydia, I've walked across the track. The going, as you know, is good to soft. Stick reading of 6.1. We'll be talking to John Pullen in a few moments' time. A little bit warmer than I expected on the drive up. Came through some very heavy rain on the M4, but it's dry here, even though it's raining in the town centre. There'd be nothing this morning that would even register on a rain gauge, and I think, you know, good to soft would be a reasonable description of the track, just having walked a couple of furlongs up the old course on the home straight. So more from me in a few moments' time, but we are all set to go here on the road to Cheltenham.
We certainly are, and the declarations for Wednesday are dribbling through. Just some confirmations. The main horses are through for the Turner, so Final Demand is running there. Dancing City and Ballyburn will be taking each other on in the Brown Advisory. And Ergamin there, John Ball also, and Founder 50 in the Champion Chase. And Liberty Hunter, as was mentioned by his trainer Evan Williams this week, is going for the Champion Chase rather than the Grand Annual. Later on in the programme, at the end section, we'll bring you up to date on changes in terms of headgear and tongue ties and equipment and all that kind of thing. On which note, Ruby, because of all the sort of focus on Lossiemouth and her switch to the mare's hurdle, one element, I think, of this mix has kind of got underplayed, and that is first-time cheek pieces on State Man. Now, we'll do the Champion Hurdle in full detail, but I want to know straight up, why have we got cheek pieces on State Man?
I think Paul felt that when Lossiemouth fell and he was left on his own in Leopardstown, that he wasn't really doing a tap, and they put a pair of cheek pieces on him doing the morning working, and he worked really well in them, so Paul was keen to have them on, so they're on him.
If you were outside of this camp, would you interpret this as a positive or a negative? I kind of felt negative towards it. I can't explain what that was just my gut reaction when I saw it. Bearing in mind that we're sort of being told that he was, you know, back to his old self after winning at the DRF. I know that Lossiemouth fell. It just made go, oh, so Lossiemouth isn't running here, and Stateman wears cheek pieces?
Yeah, but even if he's back to his best, he needs a bit more to be Constitution Hill on form for Stateman. So you're trying to eke out every last bit of improvement you have, or every bit of energy he has, and yeah, Paul felt at this stage in his career he needed a pair of cheek pieces, so they're on him. Okay. But yeah, Paul is happy with him, and so is David Casey. He's been riding him lately.
You mentioned the great Constitution Hill, and he forms part of our social poll. Now, there's ups and downsides to this, depending on what kind of punter you are, but there are 4 red-hot favourites running on the first day of the Cheltenham Festival. Which one do you think is the most vulnerable? There are Gold Cup Day tickets to be won for the best answer, because we want your reasoning. This is Road to Cheltenham Roadies. We don't just want the answer, we want your reasoning. You get prize for the working out. and this will be running live during these 2 hours. Which one do you think is the most
I was going to
vulnerable?
ask you first.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah, go on.
Who do I think is the most vulnerable? I suppose the one who's got the most unknowns is Kopek de Board.
Yeah.
I don't really like Lossiemouth anywhere, having had her coming here after that fall, and I think maybe she's probably too short. And Constitution Hill has a proper rival, and of those, probably has the biggest rivals. Which one do I like least? Probably Lossiemouth.
Right. And I think purely on opposition, and you explained it better than I'm going to explain it, he has the biggest rival to beat, Constitution Hill. So I think the others are in easier races.
I can see that. I can see that.
That's
absolutely.
my logic. Doesn't mean I'm right, but that's my
I
logic.
think that's good logic. We've had the new chief executive of Cheltenham coming out and talking about how the crowd figures are going to be down over the 4 days. Do you think one-sided races like this is a key element as to why people have returned off? There were lots of reasons last year why people might not want to come back, but this is an ongoing issue.
One-sided races, I personally can't speak for every other race score. I'm not so sure. I would say value for money is a big thing. That's why people aren't coming back. And I would also think the lack of English runners.
Yeah, well, I think that I do agree with you. It's a key element.
I think that's a huge thing, personally. You look at it's a lot of Irish horses, very Irish dominant, and it's an English race meeting. I think that's a huge factor.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, final point on this, there'll be agitations to change the mare's hurdle. Some people want it scrapped. More sensible people might advocate a sort of change or a tweaking to it. Other than that, wouldn't you say that the changes that have been made have actually been pretty much a success story? I think day one already shows you that.
I think it does. The idea behind changing the handicap rules and the qualification was to try and get more novices back into the novice races. That was the first theory. Like, ultimately, when you look at a band of horses, 90% or more are going to end up handicappers. So you want to, and a horse should be for life. So you have to try and give handicappers a chance rather than getting beaten by unexposed novices. Now, sharp punters will love unexposed novices, and that's how they will punt and make a living, and they won't like the changes. But to me, they have to be a little bit exposed, and you make it more competitive. So I think they have worked. And look, I'm a fan of the mare's hurdle. I'd be for keeping it. That's only my personal opinion.
Without the tweaks, you could well have seen Django Bayer, for example, running in the Turners, Ballyburn and Dancing City not taking each other on. And for the National Hunt Chase, we've actually had eliminations, full field of 18. Last year there were 6. Okay, let's get on with it, shall we? I'm sure you're yelling, get on with it at the telly. Let's start with what will be an emotional moment and an appropriate start to celebrate the life of Michael O'Sullivan. With his name emblazoned on the Supreme Novices Hurdle. He won this race 2 years ago with Marine Nationale. Let's talk about this race first of all. The betting first off sees Kopek de Board at 10 to 11, ahead of Romeo Coolio at 6s, along with Work Ahead. William Money 7 to 1, and Willie Mullins is second string with Patrick Mullins on board. Salvatore Monday 12 to 1, 16 to 1 bar. A hood is on Kopek de Board, Ruby. Let's reflect on his form. First off, he had to improve his jumping.
Yes, obviously from his maiden hurdle run in Leopardstown at Christmas time, his jumping was deplorable. He never got into a rhythm patch. He said he got bumped at the first, and then it was downhill from there on. Skews the second and lands on all fours. And again at the third hurdle, and Lydia, we could show you every hurdle in that race because it went from bad to worse. Then he went to the DRF. Paul took over. A lot of schooling done since. Competitive to the first, he was good at it. Got in close to the second, but at least he landed galloping, and then his jumping was much, much better. This was a deep race. He was probably a bit keen. Loose horse almost carried him out going to the second last, but it's what he did off the bend after doing plenty of things wrong in the race. He just started to open up, and away he went. Carnaque is not a bad rival back in second. Kate Doughty, Sia Sands, plenty of form horses behind him, but this fella came down the straight doing an absolute half speed, and he now is your odds on favourite for the Supreme. He looks really well here in Cheltenham since he's come. He has the hood fitted, as you said, because he did get a bit tetchy in the parade beforehand, and on the way to the start ran a little bit keenly, but look, I know if you were coming here to ride him, you'd be fairly happy.
Upside is he's been here for a while and he's got used to his surroundings. Why is it a hood and not cheekpiece? Earplugs?
Some horses don't like earplugs. Obviously things put into their ears, so then you cover them over with a hood. Personally, if you can use earplugs, it's better because you can read the situation. Like tomorrow, you're all in with a hood, so he has to put the hood on, he's declared, and that's it. And if he's grand and relaxing the parade ring, you can't take it off. Whereas with earplugs, even in the preliminaries, if he's not getting on his toes, you can take them out and then race without them. But with a hood, you are dulling the noise, but also, and horses use their sense, their hearing, to ignite their flight. So you are tapering that down a little bit as well. So look, that's why I prefer earplugs, because you always have the option to take them out, whereas a hood, you're all in.
And some horses just won't accept earplugs.
Oh, they won't, no. But it's like humans. We get used to wearing earpieces, but when you put them in for the
Kinda.
first time, yeah, when you put them in for the first time, you know, it's a bit different, and horses are the same.
Do you think he deserves to be dominating in terms of the betting? Do you think his form represents that?
I do. I think he does. I do think he deserves. I think his form is definitely the strongest. Now, look, pricing a race or making a book is not my forte. Does he deserve to be the price he is? I couldn't tell you.
But in terms of dominance is more how I meant it.
Yeah.
And finally, how worried should we be about the preliminaries? This is the Supreme. The Raw beforehand is biggest. The anticipation over the 4 days is the biggest.
Look, whatever way you look at it, I don't think he's going to get into a bigger strop than Classical Dream did. I don't think he'll be as bad as that. Gaelic Warrior, he was pretty bouncy in the parade before the Arkle last year. I don't think it'll be that big an issue. You'd love to tick all the boxes and everything to go smoothly, but it wouldn't bother me that much.
Okay. Just to amplify what I was saying about in terms of where he stands of form so far, Kopek de Board against the other winners of the Supreme recently. This is Time Form's view. So these are the last 5 winners. These on the right is the rating that they achieved in winning it. And that rating has been adjusted for things like weight carried and age, that kind of thing. Obviously, the average is skewed by the monster performance in 22 in Constitution Hill, but he is 168, so already good enough to win 2 of the last 5 runnings, and that big P suggests that Time Form think he's capable of significantly better Kopek de Board. Right, let's move on to Romeo Coolio. Again, this is a horse about which connections learned as they went on.
Definitely, and the Royal Bond wasn't run to suit him, and it wasn't even that they went that slow in the Royal Bond, it's just that they never quickened up. Here's the last hurdle, they're all in a heap, and the race got quite congested and turned into a dash down the straight, and ultimately he didn't have the gears to go with Toomsavader when the sprint was on. Now, the form of this race, Gosho went on the inside, he went and bolted in a Nace in a novice hurdle yesterday. Bellocchio, the grey horse on the outside, was disappointing, but he just gets done in a dash here, and then they changed tactics with him when he went to Leopardstown. He is a strong stayer. He ran in the bumper last year, and I think he'll go forward in tomorrow's Supreme. I think he'll be up there. You will have the likes of Work Ahead in there, and even maybe 1 or 2 more of Willies who like to go on. But when Carnegie made a mistake in Leopardstown and Romeo Coolio was left in front, he maintained a solid gallop from there. He didn't go flat out. He just maintained a really good gallop, and then he was able to quicken off that gallop and extend his advantage. He's a very good horse because he hasn't won for Christmas. He's probably slightly forgotten, recency bias or whatever the term is for it, but he's a good horse. He'll be on the pace, and look, he missed the last at the ERF, but he's usually a solid jumper too.
Jack Kennedy will be on board for the first time. He's had 6 rides since his return from his 6th leg fracture and a winner at Gore. And have you had a look at him? Does he look ready to go? He looks lean and fit to me.
Yeah, and fresh. Fresh is a big thing.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, he says it's the fittest he's ever been since coming back from injury. You mentioned Work Ahead. Around the same day as Kopek de Board, they put up pretty similar times. Obviously, Kopek de Board over Christmas hit every hurdle pretty much. Work Ahead made all, and William Money chased him home.
He did, and William Money has improved from this. He didn't go mad in front. He got a kind of an easy lead, Work Ahead, but he jumped really well. It was a solid gallop, and you could see them trying to employ similar tactics tomorrow. I think he will line up and go. I think that suits Romeo Coolio, who needs to be dragged. It'll also suit Kopek de Board, who'd like a strong pace to help him settle behind. Now, William Money has improved out of all recognition since this race. Redemption Day back in the blue and green behind. He won yesterday as well, so another boost to a maiden hurdle that's produced plenty of winners this race has. But Work Ahead, yeah, he's going to be up on the pace, and he looks a solid enough horse.
Could you see the way this race has been run potentially turning that form around between William Money and Work Ahead?
I don't. I think William Money's improved a good bit from that run, but I wouldn't see any reason as to why Work Ahead hasn't improved too. I don't see them swapping around. I think Work Ahead's the more solid.
Okay. Willie Mullins had a 419 to 1 4-timer at Naas yesterday, just in case you're worried about the stable form. Of course you weren't, with 4 different jockeys. However, let's have a look at the market. It is folly, the stats tell you, to go look anywhere apart from Willie Mullins' stable jockey selected in Grade 1s. And so what do you make of, Patrick's Salvatore Mundi and the rest of the field?
Yeah, Salvatore Mundi, it was he won the Moscow Flyer. He wasn't impressive. He'll be quite keen, needs to switch off. Aranci we haven't seen since November, but he does look to be in good form. Carbo, he's a good traveller, good jumper, can be a bit keen, probably go forward as well. And Funicula, I would have said has to improve the most. But yeah, it's, what did you say? Folly to go against the stable jockey in the Supreme.
Yeah. Or grade ones in
general.
In general,
Is it?
when Willie Mullins is involved, and generally, the yard, you'll
Let's
know
pick
this.
the right one.
Knows, yeah, exactly. Knows what
And
they're
I can
doing.
remember the ones I got wrong. Very
Yeah. What is that? That is bias. Your own personal experience. That stat that we were talking about earlier in the season, where we were saying that no horse with a hood has ever won the Supreme. The closest that got was probably Mystical Power when second last year.
Yeah.
This could change. I mean, there's 3 horses. There's Kopek de Board. There's William Money, should have mentioned first time hood, and also Carnico.
Yeah, and what does Salvatore Mundi wear? Does he wear a hood now?
Does he?
He
Yeah,
wear a hood the last
he
time.
still wears a hood. Sorry, 4 of them.
4 of them.
and
Yeah. Oh, sorry, 3
first-timers.
first timers. Sorry, but 4 with a hood. Yeah, they could well change.
It could well change. Right. Okay. That's our view on the Supreme. Let's move on to the My Pension Expert Arkle Challenge Trophy, shall we? Now, the surprise at declaration time was Only by Night runs here for Gavin Cromwell, which was not how he was thinking when we spoke to him last Thursday.
No, but look, I suppose plans remained fluid, and maybe when they looked at the race again, they thought this was the race for her. Small field, which is slightly disappointing, and the knock-on effect of that is too, Lydia, when you look at your Arkle horses, all right, Sergino's not here, but they tend to be your champion chase horses. So it's what's coming through into that champion chase division. And look, they are nice horses in Majborough and Sergino, but they need a bit more quantity. And yeah, there's definitely a shortage in shorter distance novice chasers.
Yeah, I think the supply chain is an overarching problem. Only by Night, I quite like her this year. I mean, I was making the argument that she's a bang 2 miler. I could see her potentially finishing second here to Majborough. All goes well with him.
Yeah, she could, and I think actually Touch Me Not. On that ground,
Yeah.
I think he's a good solid jumper as well. So that's looking for something to be placed behind Majborough. He does look rock solid. He was pretty good at Fairyhouse, and I thought he was brilliant at the DRF. Rushed a couple of fences that we'll look at, but geez, he looks a really good horse.
Let's take a look at Majborough, shall we, in some detail. And we can have a look at the Irish Arkle performance where he beat Touch Me Not by 9 lengths.
Yeah, and jumped past Touch Me Not at the second fence and went on at the third fence. Now, as we said, he did rush a couple, and not everything was smooth for him. Got in deep to the first down the back, second fence down the back, then Mark gave him a squeeze and he put down, but I loved the way he moved his feet and got out of that. And third last takes fourth last a nod, and then the third last, this jump, boom, seal the deal. Look, he's going to be up there pretty much on the pace. I think he's rock solid. If you're worried about him rushing fences, I'd imagine fence 6, the downhill into the back straight, mightn't be one question mark. There doesn't tend to be many fallers there though, and maybe the third last, but outside of that, I wouldn't be too worried about
Not the second last as well, just because
off
it's
the bend. Yeah, it's kind of fence maybe where those falls tend to be cross wires is the wrong word, but they tend to be where a jockey says go on and the horse doesn't pick up, or the jockey says no and the horse keeps galloping. It tends to get a similar type of fall all the time, but I think he'd be going too well at that point.
He's got a massive jump. When Mark Walsh was organising in the Irish Arkle, he was brilliant.
He was, and look, that was only his second start over fences, so he's going to have that experience under his belt now. He looks really well, and he's so straightforward, and a small field as well, 5 runners. You'd imagine Touch Me Not to go forward, load of sud, probably sit in behind it. You'd imagine, in theory, Majborough will be handy. I could see Harry Skelton trying to follow Mark Walsh, but just don't think load of stud is good enough to get to him.
Okay, this is one bit of happiness on my Road to Cheltenham anti-post column. I put up Majborough at 5-1 just before Christmas, and so that is now sitting pretty. Obviously, events, dear boy, events have happened in the meantime. Just one point about the Irish Arkle. Touch Me Not being able to take a lead and still put up a good performance in second, for the argument that you're making of him running well here, that was encouraging, wasn't it?
I think it was, and I think he's a really good jumper. Leopardstown, if you think about it, first 5 furlongs, only 3 fences. You've got 4 here, and the more jumping the better for Touch Me Not.
Okay, let's move on to Load of Sud, and I'm interested in what tactics you think will be carried out.
Yeah, I think they obviously got racing quite early in Warwick the last day, but Cheltenham here earlier in the season, Harry Skelton did take a lead on him, produced him at the second last, and didn't commit him until he got to the last. He got in really deep. He's really clean with his front legs, Load of Sud. He's a really good jumper, and he went away and he won well. Excuse me. He went from there to Sandown to the Henry VIII. Didn't jump quite as well in the Henry VIII, but again, they were handy, but not forcing it. They were never going to make the running with him. Got in deep to the second last and got himself out of all sorts of trouble at the last with whatever he did. Gets in really close and bunny hops it almost. But Touch Me Not had made a really bad mistake at the railway fences, and then at Warwick he just got racing with Rubo a long way from home. They went flat out at the 5 fences across the side in Warwick. He jumped really well. he was entitled to get a bit tired off the back of that, but I think he'll follow. I think he'll sit right behind the pace and be hoping to have a go at Mashborough.
Yeah, that was my sense of it too, sort of particularly at Cheltenham. He seemed to really enjoy sort of tracking the pace and then attacking. I suppose the only thing you would say is that he was so fluent when he was being aggressive over that run of fences at Warwick, whether, you know, covering that up is removing one of his assets.
Yeah, but you're just going to think that a finishing effort like the one at Warwick won't be good enough to win the Arkle. So if you go gung-ho to get all your ground down the back, to me you're going to be too vulnerable in the closest stages.
But how about pressurising Mashborough at his fences? Because the only time he ever really has been was at the very last when Tully Hill loomed up first time out, and then he ran away from him from the last.
Yeah, I could often try that on open horses, but when you're riding a novice and you go to pressurise another novice, you end up putting your own novice on the floor.
Yeah, right, okay. Fine. Let's have a straight comparison through the prism of race IQ, shall we, between Lodersud and Mashborough, and in terms of their jumping. Lodersud with those 4 tries over fences, so has the more experience. Lesser experience over fences, no debar to success in the Arkle, history tells us.
No, and look, the average speed loss figures, bar Sandown and really test on really soft ground, they're pretty much they're similar. 3.16 at Stratford, 3.03 at Fairyhouse. They're 2 solid enough jumpers. Mashborough probably a little bit quicker through the air. Lodersud is very clean in front.
Okay, let's move on to the betting again and just have another look at it. You and I have both made a case for perhaps Only by Night or Touch Me Not, either grabbing third, or you could be a bit of interest in the each way in the without Mashborough market, or you could think that the horse might finish second. One of those two might finish second to Mashborough. The horse we haven't discussed is Django Bai.
Yeah, what way does he ride him?
Well,
2.5 miler now.
Exactly. It's going to have to be fairly positive with Django Bai, aren't they? Because he's going to be a staying 2 miler at best.
So is he the one that gets down the outside of Mashborough? So if you can imagine Touch Me Not Mashborough, is it Django Bai that gets down the outside, pushing him, leaving Harry Skelton in the pocket inside, and Keith Donoghue surveying it all? Possibly.
Well, I mean, that's similar to the ride that Nico de Boinville pulled off when he was up against Caldwell Potter, isn't he?
Yeah.
He moved on and pressurised Caldwell Potter because Django Bai's jumping from the outset has been very good.
Yeah, it's just Willie at this speed is a different question mark, but he is the one that you could see moving up to push this forward.
Okay, and do you think that they've made the right decision now that they've only got the choice of the 3 mile Brown Advisory, the 2 mile Arkle? Is this the right way?
I would, and I probably see it so differently to most people, but to me going shorter with younger horses is much better for the long-term prospect, for the longevity of the horses. That's the way I see it. And I would be favouring coming back rather than going up in trip anyway.
Me too. I think it was the right way to
Absolutely.
jump. And also he jumps really soundly, and so as long as he can pull that off at this pace, then I think he's going to be in the game.
And if he doesn't pull it off, what he will have learned going forward will be huge too.
All of that. Right. We're going to take a break for a few moments, and then we're going to talk about the Close Brothers David Nicholson Mares Hurdle. Right, okay, let's get straight down to it. And obviously the big news was that Lossiemouth goes here rather than to the Champion Hurdle. Golden Ace, the winner of last year's Dawn Run, where she beat Brighter Days Ahead, has gone in the other direction. So let's have a look at the betting for the Close Brothers David Nicholson Mares Novice Hurdle. Lossiemouth is 8-13. Jade de Gruchy, her stable companion, is 9-2. July Flower is 15-2. Joya's 11-1. She was supplemented for this race, of course. Calaconte for Jack Kennedy, 16-1. 20-1, the improving and likeable Take No Chances, and it's 28-1 and upwards the rest. Okay, we'll start by having a look at this fall in the Irish Champion Hurdle, Ruby, and this was quite a heavy one. It's a negative any way you switch it.
It is, and we've looked at it every which way. Lydia Seagull's going through the bottom of the screen there, and I can't explain why she fell. She wasn't looking at the hurdle for my money. This was her in the Hatton's Grace, her seasonal debut. Really slowly run race, Beacon Edge, Chupu. You can argue it whichever way you want, that she goes and beats Chupu on the bridle, but for my money, Chupu doesn't beat Beacon Edge far enough to make this form of merit, and she sprinted away from Chupu. So look, she was good here last year. This is a good performance over 2.5. Her disappointing run was at Christmas over 2 miles, and she fell at 2 miles in Leopardstown as well. So I know Willie keeps going on about her pedigree. She's related to David O'Mara's Miler, the grey horse.
Yes, yeah. Don't switch codes like that on me. I know who you mean. The American winner over Amara,
Yeah, and he's in the pedigree, but I don't know. I think this trip suits this mare better.
Right, I mean, we heard from Dan Barber on Thursday that coming to the festival off a fall, horses underperform compared to expectation on the statistics. So that's, I mean, even though she's heavy odds on here, that would concern me, I think. And also, then if you're asked on the day to kind of look afresh at the form. So last time out a fall, the time before, she's kind of unexpectedly outpaced in the early part of the Christmas circle. Okay, then she managed to get the closest any horse ever has to Constitution Hill. Prior to that,
is she just in front of Bordette Road?
Yeah, well, that's the other way of looking at it as well. And then you've got, as you say, the way in which you look at the Hatton's Grace, which isn't necessarily the most solid form. I'm kind of asking, what is she this season?
Know. Disappointed. That's what she is this season. A Grade 1 winner, but hasn't lived up to the expectation. But what's the form of last year's mare's hurdle? Tell me something, Gordon. It's not. It doesn't jump off the page as rock solid form.
Much deeper this time around.
Much deeper this time around. And I still think she's the best mare in this particular race, and I think she'll be hard to beat because the others have to get to the level she's at. But there's a chance one or two of them could.
Yeah. I suppose what you'll be going on is the fact that it was a 2-year plan for the champion hurdle. Willie Mullins was saying he was sticking to the plan even after the fall. You said that she schooled okay.
No, she schooled well.
Yeah, okay, better than she's schooled well since Leopardstown, and she's got that very memorable international hurdle success, which was
beating Love Envoy, was it?
It was. It was good on the time, so she was pretty. That was pretty taking. Is the fact that she's here an expression of weakness in the horse that we'll look at next, Jade de Garouche? As in, could...
No, different orders. This is an expression of people not believing Lossiemouth could beat Brighter Days Ahead Constitution Hill statement.
So it's completely...
That's why she's here.
Right, OK. And so let's have a look at Jade de Garouche, shall we? I mean, she was 4th here behind Golden Ace last year.
This race ties into the champion as well. Brighter Days Ahead and Golden Ace. They're 3rd, 4th and 5th at this point. And they were pretty similar throughout the race, the three of them. They were all in a similar sort of group. The race was slowly run and then they dashed away from the second last hurdle, sprinted up here. Brighter Days Ahead still looks to be going the best. Jade de Garouche's gone the far side, but she's been outpaced, and then Golden Ace was better than them all on the day. I just think the race was run completely not to suit Brighter Days Ahead in particular, now that we see her and what she's done this year. And Jade de Garouche went from there back to Ferryhouse and she was impressive. You have to tip your hat to Golden Ace though. She beat them here last year at this track, and look, she's a good mare too, but Jade de Garouche definitely last year, it kind of felt that Jack was looking at Paul was looking at Jack, and both of them forgot about Golden Ace.
We've only seen her once this season and it was relatively late. Does that imply a rush?
I think it does. She was late back in, and we had Paul on the show in January, that was, wasn't it? She hadn't much done at that point, so look, she got to Punchestown. This is how when she beat Spindlebury last year at Ferryhouse after being to Cheltenham. Spindlebury's won a couple of chases. That's probably a truer reflection of her ability, but you're hoping that the run of Punchestown has brought her forward, or is Cheltenham coming plenty soon after the run of Punchestown? It could be both.
Question about her as well. All her form is on soft or heavy. It's not going to be that, is it?
No, it's definitely not going to be that.
And would that be a concern in your mind?
You've just highlighted it to me. I hadn't thought about it really, but she's a light enough filly. No, I wouldn't. You'd imagine she'd definitely go on at once.
Let's take a look at the betting again. Now, there's that form line at Leopardstown over Christmas where July Flower, in a race where Calaconte and Jatara got racing a long way out, came and won. What do you make of that form line?
I like the Calaconte part of that form line. I thought she did incredibly well to keep going on that occasion. Jatara has since gone to Doncaster and won. I love the way that Calaconte, even at that time, was only a 4-year-old, about to turn 5, how she hung in. She should be a bit better now than she was even then. And the other affiliate you'd have to give a chance to is Joyeuse. I think where she raced along in the William Hill hurdle at Newbury, she raced just off that really strong gallop and was able to go away and win really well. To me, she won like a graded performer in a handicap.
And how about Take No Chances, who beat Cargesi at Ascot? She's a really solid, gritty type
She is
horse.
solid and gritty, but I think it'll need to be better. I think Cargesi would have improved a lot for that run in Ascot.
like you, I feel that Calicontes might be the one that's the most interesting.
Just at a price there, she just does appeal.
And also the juvenile, you've been arguing all season that, and I think everyone sees it, the juvenile form from last season is so strong.
It is, and along with the form being strong, I think they possibly a lot of them underrated. Now this year's juveniles are paying for that, because I'd say they're overrated, but look, again, that's only opinion too.
We're going to pause our preview now to go and join Nick.
You can send me down here. I'll never really feel happy until I've spoken to Willie Mullins. Everything all in order, happy with the horses over on the boat?
Yeah, they all travelled well, no drama. And we've no drama this morning. Hopefully there'll be no drama all week. It'll be, well, when I say drama, nothing will go wrong, but things will go wrong, but anyway, nothing yet.
I always feel like when you're down here on the Monday, your work is kind of done, and this is probably the most relaxed I'm going to find you all week in some ways.
Yeah, I always think once we've finished riding out on Friday, that and the sheet is clean and no horses withdrawn at the last minute, and then I come up to the gallop Saturday morning, and Patrick and Dave said we need to work this, that, and I said no, Friday, game is over, load them up, bring them over here.
Can I just get to a few little news points? Cheap pieces on State Man, what's the thinking behind that?
I just put them on him last week doing work, and we were very happy with it. So he's an older horse, and he's been running since he was 3. And I think it'll just... he's lazy, isn't he? I mean, when Lossiemouth fell, he didn't do anything. He just thought he was, oh, what am I doing here? He wasn't in a race, so...
So you think that was just dossing?
I hope so, yeah. Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
Yeah. He's not amongst this lot
No,
here, is he? No.
No.
And is he one of those that kind of knows where he is? And
I think
when you
so,
get
yeah.
an older horse like that, does it?
But he was always
tripping
laid
them
back,
high?
and that's why I think he only ever beats what he has to beat. He never goes and beats something by 10 lengths. A length and a half, 2 lengths is fine for him.
All right, he's the jumps version of See the Stars.
Yeah.
To Constitution Hill's Frankel.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a horse with a lot more ability, I think, than people think he has. So we'll find out.
What about this girl behind you? I was just saying, she doesn't know what race she's running in. Most importantly, what kind of nick's she in, Lossiemouth?
I think she's good. She's good enough. She worked nice last week, but I was happy enough that Statement worked better than her, and Paul was not going to ride her on the Champion Hurl, so that made things, the obvious thing to do, I think.
Okay. So you were pretty much all happy to roll in with it in the end?
Yeah, disappointed that we didn't. I mean, it's been our plan for, 2 years to run her in the Champion Hurl, but after work the other day, we said, we felt she'd be just a runner. So it's disappointing, but I'm thinking, where will she meet those horses? Maybe at Aintree or something like that. She'll get her chance to meet them at some stage. But coming here this week, my duty is to get winners for owners, and her best chance of a winner we think is in the Mayor's Hurdle rather than the Champion Hurdle. So, Rich, it's a big investment into the game, and everyone wants to have a winner here at the festival, and you slice and dice it whatever way you want. You say where is the best opportunity, and that's where the best opportunity was.
Well, it's great to see her here. Come on, man. Now you've only got the 6 owners to keep happy in the Supreme Novices, so you can't have a 6-away dead heat. In your mind, to what extent is Kopek Day Board way ahead of the posse?
Well, what he did, his 2 runs this year, he just looked he looked superstar stuff. He might be found out here tomorrow, but he just looked a different class, a different league. He ran away with Paul, after the 3rd last when the loose horse came up with him, and I said, oh, that's his chance gone. And he went down to the 2nd last with the horse after running out in front of him, thinking, will he follow him? He didn't. He went down, he jumped it like a fence, and I said, Jesus, this fella has some energy left in him. And then he turned for home and thought, right, he'll get tired. He has to get tired now, and he didn't. He just galloped away up the straight again. That was some performance in my book.
Now, I know I can't keep you all morning. I'd love to, in a way. But there's a horse that keeps catching my eye, and he's right over here, and he runs in the Supreme as well. This is Iranzi.
Yeah.
He's a gorgeous horse. He looks so well in his skin.
He is, and he won early in the season, met with a setback. We have him right again. So he is a good horse, and his race, his maiden hurdle, I think, worked out very well. and he's also qualified for a 50 grand bonus if he wins a Group 1 in Grade 1 in Punchestown. So we'll know whether he's a runner in that if he's able to, for the 50 grand bonus, you know, which is, but he's a really good horse.
Lovely. Willie, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, that was very illuminating. I quite enjoyed Ruby pointing out the different horses by sight on screen. It's always very impressive, that.
I recognise 2, I'd say, out of however many there was.
More than that when they were walking past, more than that. Right, OK, let's move on to the main event, which is the Unibet Champion Hurdle. Now, Constitution Hill is 4-7. Brighter Days Ahead is 2-1, and wow, does she make the first day. I mean, she really does. We've talked about the 4 shorties in the 4 Grade 1 races. Her presence here, so, you know, props to the O'Leary brothers, props to Gordon Elliott for bringing Brighter Days Ahead. OK, State Man is 10-1 and Golden Ace is 33-1, and also props to Ian Gosden and actually to the Gredley family with Burdett Road for saying that they just want to be part of this, and their 2 horses could run really well. Right, obvious key question about Constitution Hill is he as good as he was, and does he have to be?
I think he has to be pretty close to it. Obviously the horse that won the Supreme was outstanding. The horse that won the Champion Hurdle here 2 years ago was exceptional, but I think he's running into an absolute aeroplane. Look, this was Dysart Dynamo and John Bon in the Supreme, and the faster they went, the easier this fella was going. And that is John Bon that he's kicking out of the way. Ping's the last, that was the Supreme when he really announced himself and got that massive time form rating. And look, the world was his oyster on that occasion, on that day. He came back the following year and he won the Champion Hurdle, and he was really, really good. Stateman tracked him, wasn't a strongly run race. Vauban is right behind him, not so sleepy, dropping out of the shot. Zana here, look, and he just had too many gears on this occasion, reached for the last and got there to beat Stateman and beat him in a canter. Now, Paul Townend was always adamant Stateman didn't turn up that day. I don't think it would have mattered. Even if he turned up with his A game, what was he going to get? 3 or 4 lengths closer to him, or 5 max? And that was, again, a brilliant performance. But I do think from there on, there just hasn't been that wow performance since. This was the Christmas Hurdle when he beat Rubo and beat him well, but unfortunately then we didn't see him for a long time after that. This was this year, grabbed at the 4th, Burdett Road in front of him, and again, so professional, really quick, really good at his jumping, but he does come off it. Now, they said he got tired, lost him out, gets on his tail, Burdett Road makes a bad mistake, and look, he is pretty much all out to go and win here. To me, it's the first to the third, and even the second. That's not the Champion Hurdle run, that's not his Supreme run, and I think with the mare that he faces here on tomorrow, he's going to have to be better. This is, look, misses the last and gets going again here to beat Brentford Hope. Doesn't even come off the bridle, but you're not looking at him thinking that wasn't wow either. I don't think. To me, the wow performance over hurdles this year was the mare in Leopardstown, and I think that's what makes the race.
Undoubtedly, I mean, that's the best performance this season. You know, in the early part of things, like the first Christmas Hurdle, he didn't need to be at his best in order to win. Second time, he'd had a series of issues. Obviously, Michael Buckley, his owner, has been keen to point out it wasn't injury at any point, but no, a series of issues can have an impact.
But it's any.
He's older.
It's any athlete. And when you miss time for any reason, you're not getting better when you're sitting on the sidelines, and you're losing a little bit of fitness, everything, and that's only what happens to athletes. Now, can he still win the Champion Hurdle? Of course he can, but he's going to have to be close to his best, I think.
This is how Timeform see it. Now, we showed you this visualisation earlier on in the season. Clearly, since then, we've seen Constitution Hill and Stateman each once, and that shows you that Brighter Days Ahead arrives here on a firm, steady, well, meteoric probably, upward curve, and that those are adjusted ratings, obviously. So it's essentially saying that he is going to have to put up something comparable to one of his 2 peak performances, his Supreme, which would get him, unless she pulls out more, the victory, and the first Champion Hurdle, which would make it interesting. And Stateman is kind of on that, is struggling. He's
just kind of on their tail. Well, even on their tails would be great, but look, you're hoping the cheek piece are going to make some bit of improvement out of Stateman. I'm not so sure. I'm not just saying it this morning, I'm saying it for a couple of weeks since I watched her at Christmas. I just thought that was one of those performances that It's left an impression on me that I'll remember for a long time.
Well, you said it on the day. I remember. Well, let's take a look at what she's done this season. A big talent, and she really confirmed that.
I think so, and I don't think the Morgiana suited her. She ended up jumping to the front, but she didn't like being in front. She's not a front runner as such, and she jumped off out to her left. She gave Stateman every opportunity to beat her. Now, I know she had fitness on her side, but she kept giving a genuine Grade 1 horse every ground. She kept letting him into the race. He got by her going to the last, and she grounded out to go and beat him when it got competitive. I think a really strong gallop suits her, and getting a lead absolutely transformed her even, and that was, as well as a lead, it was a lead at a strong gallop. And now you could add Chuck in Burdett Road, he might go with King of Kingsfield tomorrow, who knows, and it could be an even stronger race. But to me this was really quick, because you just watched it and you thought to yourself at times, like Danny Gilligan and Sam Ewing or other, lads, you're going a bit quick, you're going too quick, you have to slow down at some point. But even how she jumped brilliantly, getting the lead. Much quicker, slicker, straighter. Stateman never landed a blow. But it was just the relentlessness of this. And when he stood in his head at third last, and she took it off and got up sides and went by him at the second last, and away again. Stateman has narrowed the gap there at that point. But look where it is now again. And away she goes, and King of Kingsfield is trotting. She beats him the best, well over half a furlong. Now I know that you'd want to beat him a half a furlong to win the champion hurdle, but she went the gallop he went. I loved her, and I think she'll make some race tomorrow.
Now, we have touched on this before, but I think it bears repeating. How is it is a little bit more difficult to achieve those tactics here at Cheltenham. It's an undulating course, and also everyone's seen them.
Oh, I know, but it's where do you do it? How do you do it? Like, you jump the first and you run all the way down over the road to the second last fence. You probably steady here to the last hurdle as you climb up to the top of the hill. Then when you pass those white buses, away with you again, and you roll all the way down until you meet the rising ground at heading to the fourth last. And you got to jump the fourth last. I think she'll land beside him at the fourth last, sit onto the top of the hill, and when she turns at the top of the hill, Jack Kennedy's just going to be rolling. He's not going to send her and go yahoo, but he's not going to slow her down, and he'll roll down there with all the momentum, and they're going to have to go to get by her.
I agree with that. I can see it in my mind's eye, but just to pick up a potential contradiction on what you've just said, you said that first time out in the Morgiana she didn't like making her own running. So what if she's in front? I think there's a huge difference in making the running and then getting to the front.
Right. Big, to me, massive difference. Down to the third last, second last didn't bother her being not last in Leopardstown. To me, there's a difference in actually going out and having to make all the running and then getting to the front. When she gets to the front, she'll be fine. Well,
we know that she stays strongly. She's a staying, two-miler. Constitution Hill's going to like that setup as well if he's still all that.
Yeah, exactly. But you could argue that what was his least wow performance? To me, it was the entry hurdle when he beat Sharjah. That was 2.5. So if you're looking at it, you think, if we're going to beat him, we're going to have to grind him. And that's the way I see it.
Things didn't go right. I'm prepared to accept that in the Dawn Run last year when she was beaten and she was expected to be Gordon Elliott's good thing. But she's a chaser in many ways in the making. She's a big horse. What happens? What's the plan B? What happens if King of Kingfield misses one early? What happens if she hit? I mean, she's quite likely to hit one, isn't she?
Oh yeah, but sure. What if you go out and if that happens, you just got to adjust. You've got to change your tactics and go again. But you got to go out with an A plan, and the A plan would be to jump and go. And sure, if King of Kingsfield miss ones and ends up on the floor, then you just got to react. And Jack Kennedy will be well capable of reacting.
Yeah, he's the right person to have if you need someone to react. It's a fantastic setup. It's been added to this race, I think, by the inclusion of two horses that I've already mentioned. The first is Golden Ace, and let's take a look at her at Wincanton last time. This is in the Kingwell.
Jumped a bit to her right, so you're jumping in behind Brentford Hope there, gets beside Burdett Road then at the second last, and I thought she was really tough, Lydia, at Wincanton, and she battled well to beat Burdett Road. That it's a solid effort, it's a really good run, and I just can't see either of them getting involved. I think if either or are third, it'll be a cracking run for them. Now obviously things can go wrong, like who knows, Better Days Ahead might fall at the third last and bring down Constitution Hill. Anything can happen in a horse race, but I think if they all run their races and you're looking at it before the race, I think if either of those two horses could finish third, then have done really well. I don't think either will be them.
And there's no potential that the first two could take each other on, that scenario you're talking about from a long way out, get racing
at this
early.
level though, but at this level, no matter how much Constitution Hill takes on Brighter Days Ahead, if they completely capitulate, maybe Stateman can pick it up. But I don't think they'll capitulate enough for either Golden Ace or Burdett Road to get involved.
And
this is the top quality. These
I
are
know,
top level.
I know.
One is only going to break the other, and one is still going to end up going to win. These two are not. The two of them aren't going to fall in a hole. One will drag the other till it falls in a hole, or push the other till it falls in a hole. But they're both not going to.
I'm exploring options, and so Golden Ace there, who with a back to front kind of race there. Usually she travels, but she turned out to have sort of muscle problems, and there she had to kind of grind it out. So she'll be waiting, won't she?
You would have thought so, yeah. You'd imagine you'd be following along on her and trying to pick up as much the pieces that you can, yeah.
Have a look at the champion hurdle betting. I was at a preview evening, one of many, last week, and Paul Jones made an interesting point. He wonders whether Burdett Road will in fact be dropped right out. Do you remember the way that Harry Cobden did when he won the Grade 2 round here? And now that he's a more straightforward and settled horse, that actually those might be the tactics that Sam Twiston-Davies employs.
And I thought that till I went back looking at his last run in Ascot on the flat, when he stood in the stalls and missed the break. He was some keen down past the winning post that day. In behind, he still does look like he can be quite free.
Okay. And obviously there will be the betting without Constitution Hill or Bright Ace Head, or both markets for you to consider. So lots of people are looking to winter fog to
he should
to
be
get
in the
forth.
So he should.
And full disclosure, upside from the anti-post column, 5-1 Mashborough, downside 7-1 anti-post turns Lossiemouth. Enough said. Let's join Nick.
Yeah, here he is, the man responsible for preparing the ground here at Cheltenham, John Pullen. John, let's assess where we are today, Monday morning. What are we calling this ground? We're walking down toward the final hurdle on the old course.
Yeah, on the old we're good to soft, and on the new course we're good to soft and soft in places.
And is that because you've watered more on the new course?
We have, yes. Just conscious of the fact that, well, this time of the year the new course generally is slightly tighter anyway, but also, you know, we've got to get to Thursday with what is still a reasonably dry forecast, and also the risk of some frosts, you know, overnight, which just complicated matters. So what we wanted to do was get a little bit more water on now, just let that settle, and just hopefully put us in a good position to do whatever we may need to do on Wednesday night if conditions allow.
Yeah, can we deal with sort of catastrophe management first? Is there any danger from those frosts, and you're going to have to cover?
So no risk in the forecast as far as racing is concerned. Daytime temperatures, whilst a lot lower than we've had in the last week, we're down to sort of 7, maybe 8 degrees throughout the week. So a lot cooler than we have been, but temperatures are due to get up sort of around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning to sort of +3, +4. So it will be coming out. That said, you know, we're putting everything in place to cover the takeoffs and landings between days. So potentially Tuesday night we may just cover takeoffs and landings just to give us a bit of comfort on Wednesday morning in case it dropped a degree or two lower than forecast.
What's the total millimetre irrigation on the old course to this point?
Yeah, it's different amounts in different areas, but an average of between sort of 5 and 7 mil on the old.
Per day?
No, in total.
In total?
Yes, yeah, we didn't need to put a lot on. Obviously, we've you know, had plenty of rain earlier on in the winter, so 100 mil in Jan, 48 mil in Feb. We have been dry since the 27th of Feb, but the moisture's there underneath, and all we've seen in the last sort of week really is the top drying out a bit. So we just wanted to get some moisture in the top just to keep it where it was.
Would you anticipate ground no softer than good to soft through all 4 days if the forecast is correct?
I mean, the new course potentially won't dry too much now. You know, with the forecast that we've now got with these sort of daytime temperatures of between 6 and 8 degrees, so it's not going to move a lot. So there may still be some soft ground there, but in the main it would be as it is currently.
And I drove through some rough stuff that you haven't had. Are you going to get any of it today?
Forecast for today, with what we've seen, is very much as it is, overcast, cloudy. We might get a little shower later on, but they're saying 0.5 mil to 1 mil. But I am aware that there is some fairly significant rain around us. But the forecast for us isn't showing that.
Can you give us a quick stick? Okay, so you're at here. Do you have an idea in your own mind?
There's
lots
of factors, but it's proper good to soft ground. You know, it's not going to be quick.
No.
You know, this would be at the bottom end of good to soft. We had temperatures yesterday of 16.5 degrees. Probably anticipated a little bit more dry back yesterday than we actually got. But you know, we're in good shape. Lovely jumping ground, really.
John, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
John Pullen, clerk of the course here at Cheltenham.
So John's saying it's at the softer end of good to soft. We felt it was slightly different. He will have done the whole course. Full disclosure, we haven't walked the whole course yet.
He's looking at it every day of the week.
Yeah, yeah.
We sporadically pitch up.
But interesting, £500,000 to £1 million expected today. That's a lot less than was around on some forecasts even this morning. And there's clearly a lot of rain in the area, but maybe not necessarily hitting Prestbury Park.
The microclimate of Prestbury Park.
It always is, isn't it?
But frost will make it slower if it does get a bit of frost.
Yeah, and it's hard to imagine with the temperatures how they are today, and particularly how they were yesterday, that they take a significant downturn. But I'm afraid they do as of tomorrow, and so hence those precautionary frost covers. Right, on takeoffs and landings. Let's move on to Thursday, shall we? The main race, first off, there's two big races of the day. The first of them is the Ryanair Chase. Let's take a look at the betting. Factor File is the 6-4 favourite. Il est Français is 3-1. Protectorat last year's winner is 5-1. Gaelic Warrior 11-2. You didn't expect him to run. I don't expect him to run.
I don't know. I don't.
If he does make the boat, he'll be coming over on tomorrow, I think.
Tomorrow, yeah.
So keep an eye on that. Jungle Boogie 9-1, Giello 10-1, 12-1 last year's runner-up and winner of this race prior to that, Envoi Hélène 14-1 bar. Il est Français on Thursday night's road to Cheltenham. Ruby, you were outlining how you think the way to win on him is a kind of Allaho type ride.
I think he's more like Allaho than he is any of the other winners. He's nowhere near as free as Undersaw. I'd say he's a faster horse than Vatour. But yeah, I think more Allaho is how he will do it. This is him when he won the Cauto Star, the Feltham I was going to call it, bounced out. Look at the spread he put on the field. He's able to get in deep. He's not all stand out, but he can stand out and be really good at it too. This was more relentless than maybe how he was ridden in the King George 4th last. Brilliant jump, and he won in an absolute canter when he got in and flew the last. King George, a bit more stop-start than the Cauto Star race, and maybe that was because of the runs he'd had in between. Maybe James didn't think he could keep going on him in the King George like he did in the Cauto Star. Booked out to make the running, and that's what he's going to do here. He'll bounce out. Horses will go with him early, but look at the lead he has by the time he's jumped 6 fences in the King George. And again, he slowed up a little bit past the stands, tried to stretch them, didn't quite get home, and Banbridge ran him down when he got in deep to the last. But I think he'll jump out. I think he'll open up from about the 4th fence. And I think when he faces down into the back straight, which would be heading 2, 3 and 4 to 7, fence 8, I think he'll be putting the horses behind him under a bit of pressure.
Horses with big performances like that at Kempton, you immediately go, oh, flat track, is he going to handle the undulations?
Oh, I think he will. I wouldn't worry about the undulations for him. I think if he can jump the last ditch and the fence after it and get himself onto the top of the hill without being asked a question, he's going to make you run to get by him.
I tend to agree, and also I don't think he has a sort of, you talked about how he's actually adaptable jumper as well, so I'm not worried in that angle. The bleeding is the thing, that's the unknown, and there's just nothing you know.
Nothing.
It may or may not happen.
No, it may or may not happen. Obviously, you will be trying to keep him in a rhythm and not to put him under a sudden burst or put him suddenly under pressure. That's what you'd be trying to do, but it's not as often that easy to do that.
On to the favourite Factor File, who had been heading towards the Gold Cup, but when he was beaten by Galopin de Champs for the 2nd time this season, the vibes were that he was coming here, and so he is. Yeah,
he is. I mean, he started the year out looking like he could be a Gold Cup horse. This was the John Durkin way back when, Grange Clare West, Galopin de Champs, faster, slow, got into a bit of difficulty off the bend when faster, slow tightened him up, and he had to dig in to go and win, and Spillans Tower coming down the outside. Look, it's hard to imagine this race was actually in this season. It seems that long ago, but he was really good that day, and look, pulled away to beat Spillans Tower and Galopin de Champs. Looked like Spillans Tower was coming to beat him halfway up the run in, and he dug in. Went to Christmas, the Great White Hope. Could he beat Galopin de Champs? And he didn't, and he was too keen. He didn't race like a 3-mile chaser in Leopardstown with Mark Walsh. He was always alive in his hands, galloping much more relaxed in front. This fella was racing, wanting to attack his fences, and he never settled. Even up here past the winning post, he pulled his way up into 3rd behind Gentleman's Game. Just, that's not how 3-mile chasers win. I definitely don't win a Gold Cup doing that. Threw it down to Galopin de Champs going to the last, but didn't get from there home. And to be honest, if you don't come home from the last fence in Leopardstown over 3 miles, you're struggling to come home in a Gold Cup over 3 1/4.
In the
to
Irish
try different
Gold
tactics, dropped him in, he settled much better. Again, it's like a carbon copy of Christmas. He gets to Galopin de Champs going to the last, but ultimately he can't get from there home with him. And I suppose the question mark that came out of this race was Grange Clare West.
The
He
fact
comes
he got
back,
past him.
gets back by Factor File, and I'd say, like there, would you imagine he's going to finish anywhere other than second? No, but he does. He finishes third. So to me, it screamed like he didn't stay.
So he can be ridden much more straightforwardly.
I think the speed, the tempo, the fact that Ile Francais will put in the race and hold the race. Like obviously Paul went slow and galloping the Champ at the Dublin Racing Festival, but I think James Reevely will put a really strong tempo to the race. I think that'll suit Factor File.
And in your mind's eye, I think it's Protectorat who might be the bridge between Factor File and Ile Francais.
Yeah, look, we're talking about the Arca. Will Django Boy be the one that pushes Masborough on the outside? And I do. And if you watch last year's Ryanair, it's how Harry Skelton rode Protectorat. All big spread across the track, but watch how Harry goes from the middle of the track over to the inside, gets behind Stage Star and a High Senior, and gets in that pocket. Now, he was always cantering in last year's Ryanair. Now I do think Ile Francais will go a bit quicker than the High Senior and Stage Star were able to go, but I think that'll suit Protectorat, and I think he'll be the one that sits between Ile Francais and the pack, and I think he'll keep the pack involved in the race. A strong stayer himself, winner of a Betfair Chase at Haydock, he gets 3 miles or can get 3 miles, so you can ride him aggressively at 2.5. They were very aggressive on him at Windsor. I know Windsor is sharp and it's fast, and he did love it, but they made plenty of use of him, and I don't think that they'll shirk away from Ile Francais.
No, he was right back to form there last time. It was great to see. Just looking at it purely from a betting perspective, though, he won this at 17-2 last year. You're being asked to take at the moment about 2.5 points shorter in a race that's much deeper.
That's where you're into the betting angle. I didn't even see that.
But you know what I mean.
And when you say it, it makes perfect sense. Why would you?
Yeah. To Jello, is he being overlooked?
Depends on which Jello you get. Obviously, he was very good in the Peterborough Chase, not so good at Windsor. He was good in the Denman at Newbury. Thought he looked outpace over the cross fence heading into the home straight, and then he came alive and won really well. Ran well here last year behind Genie's Destiny and Grey Dawning. But does that Genie's Destiny, Grey Dawning form, is that good enough? Don't think so.
I don't know. Grey Dawning, maybe. Genie's Destiny, not so far this season, certainly. But
he could be interested in the play at Genie's Destiny.
He could well be, but certainly the run style is going to suit him there.
Does that make Jello win this race?
No, it doesn't. But I think Jello is a better horse this season. I don't think he would have been suited at Windsor. That wasn't his place. No. He doesn't want a tight left-handed track like that. He can function on a galloping left-handed track, but not a tight one. And just one last one, Envoy LN. Cheltenham is his place.
It is.
He's won here twice, three times.
And he arrived up last year to challenge Protectorat and ultimately wasn't good enough. And he is now a year older, so I'm afraid no for me and the Envoy LN front.
Okay. Let's move on to the Paddy Power Stayers Hurdle and take a look at the betting for that. Chupu is the favourite, 11-8 from Paddy Power. Lucky Place trying the trip for the first time, representing Nicky Henson, 6-1, along with Home by the Lee, who's in this race for the 4th time. The Wall Park coming here, not the Potemps, is 7-1, and it's 12-1 and upwards the rest. So before we go into each of these horses in detail, where's the pace coming from here?
I don't know. And like you even think about last year's Stayers Hurdle wasn't strongly run, and you had Flooring Porter. So there's been no replacement pace-wise. You think about the race in Newbury, they didn't go mad gallop. Long Walk wasn't strongly run, neither was the Cleve. The couple of races in Leopardstown, Asterion Falange went along and was pushed by Hewick. That's been actually the strongest gallop. The race Home by the Lee won at Leopardstown at Christmas, but I don't see massive pace in this race. Something will have to make it, but I don't see what it is.
But will they make it at a good pace?
No.
Probably not.
I don't think so.
For the Wall Park, we'll come back to that a little bit later. Chupu then, the title holder, but two things that people have thrown in his direction. One, is he in as good a form this season? And two, this drying ground, isn't that going to catch him out?
The drying ground would definitely be a concern for him, you'd have to imagine. Last year, obviously, he got back up to beat Impere Pass in the Hatton's Grace. This year, he was no match for Lossiemouth and only just beat Beacon Edge, but not maybe as far as you'd wish. Last year's Stayers Hurdle, Asterion Falange, Noble Yates, and Keith Donoghue got Flooring Porter to settle. And Flooring Porter eventually got running with Keith Donoghue off the top of the hill, and he put a bit of pace into the race. But Chupu was always sat mid-division. He had the gears to quit quicken up, and they did dash down to the second last hurdle. He had the gears to get up outside Noble Yates, got himself to the front, and he was always then repelling the challenges of those coming behind him. Whereas the year before, he could never get to the front under Davy Russell and couldn't get by those in front of him. Home by the Lee here in the red colours. You kind of thought for a second, here, round about here, he's going to come at them home by the Lee. And what you watch him at Leopardstown and Navan, that's what he does. He gets into top gear and he runs, but he didn't go any further at Cheltenham. He got so far up here on the stand side. But Joseph O'Brien made an interesting point that actually he comes here to challenge. He gets to the Parade Ring Great, which is round about now, after the fence, just about there, so the horses go out onto the track, and he decides I've enough done.
Ah, okay, that's a very interesting
Look
take.
at him, because he does not stay, and eventually he decides he's going to half go again, halfway up the run.
I'm going to have to do this, aren't I? You're making me go on.
Go on, I don't know. It's a theory of Joseph's, and Leopardstown, Navan, the gates are all past the winning post. I think that could be a help for Home by the Lee. This is Chupu at Leopardstown or Ferryhouse even, and it wasn't a race that was going to suit us there. And again, a year older, he didn't have the gears for Lossiemouth. Maxim on his right, Beacon Edge down the inside. But I'd probably like to have seen him finish further in front of Beacon Edge, if I'm being honest.
There was a whisper that he might win at Christmas. He didn't, but then again, this plan worked last year.
Yeah, and it's then hard to change. Trainers are creatures of habits, and you find a winning formula, it can be hard to change that formula. But yeah, I would like to see him at Christmas.
Good ground at times in the Hatton's Grace. It was good to Soft when he was at least unlucky third in this race 2 years ago. I think he's effective enough on good to Soft myself.
Look, you look at it and you think, yeah, is he as good as he was? I want to take him on. Find the one to take him on with. That's the problem. I can't.
That is the problem. We can
and
take a
I
look
keep
at.
going back to him because of that.
I have the same thing. We can take a look at Home by the Lee at Leopardstown. He had Rocky's Diamond, who's one of the few improvers in the field behind him, and Sandor Clegane, for me, is not a finder. He's a lover, not a fighter.
He's a traveller, all right. Look, Asterion Forlange went along, and Hewick took Asterion Forlange on plenty early in this race, which made it into a test. Now, Home by the Lee is trapped in midfield. He's travelling pretty well, but as I said, Hewick pushes Asterion Forlange, and then Bob Ollinger gets outside Home by the Lee, and this race really did build. Now, Home by the Lee looks booked here for a bad fifth or a bad sixth. JJ gets him out. He arrives up going to the last, and he powers away to beat Bob Ollinger. Solid run. Rocky's Diamond is back in fourth. Cracking run from a 4-year-old. Turned 5 and went and won at Goran Park.
Jumping.
Rocky's Diamond definitely jumped better in Goran, but didn't jump great at Leopardstown.
He's more sweet this season. I mean, they put the blinkers back on here to win. That suits him, but he's just been a bit more straightforward. He's won both of his starts. He comes here arguably in the best form he has.
Yeah, but the other side of the coin was Joseph O'Brien's horses were absolutely on fire at Christmas.
It's true.
On fire. Now, they're still in pretty good form, but they were running to their absolute maximum at Christmas time.
Okay. For the record, Sandor Clegane has the blinkers back on. Another Irish raider. This is the stable companion of the favourite, the Wall Park, and we can have a look at him winning over the course and distance at Cheltenham, beating Gowl Road in December. Yeah,
he's in the yellow colours. Obviously now he'll run in the colours of JP McManus. I think Gowl Road hasn't done this form any harm, has he? Good winner of the Cleve, Gowl Road was, and the Wall Park got into top gear and has pulled away to win well. Look, that was a Pertemps qualifier. He's now right up in grade. But as you said, Lydia, he does look like a strong stayer. Was a bit disappointing in the
long walk.
A steadily run race, and what's he going to have dragging him? What's he going to have to aim at?
That's the thing. That was quite a soundly run Pertemps qualifier, and it was, as you say, a steadily run long walk order. He made up quite a lot of ground to finish through for fourth.
He did, but if they go steady, they're going to fly down to the second last here, and then they just could get too far away from the Wall Park.
Gowl Road also features finishing second in the next clip that we're going to show you. Lucky Place wins it, and it's the Relkill Hurdle. Yeah,
and look, I suppose if there is an improver, maybe it is Lucky Place. Didn't get the greatest run around in last year's Coral Cup behind Langer Dan, but he's a solid enough jumper. Again, the one question mark is stamina though. Looks like Lucky Place will get further, but we don't actually know.
Yeah. Generally, I don't like a sort of 2.5 miler going up to 3 miles in the Stayers Hurdle for the first time. I feel that the experience tends to improve. And that said, we're talking about a potentially steadily run scenario whereby having a bit of pace, a turn of foot, might actually be an advantage. And this horse, Lucky Place, all the way through his career, has shaped as though he's a stayer. And he was one of few Nicky Henderson horses that actually ran really well at the Cheltenham Festival last year when they had that lurgy.
Yeah, he did, yeah. And He just reminds me a little bit though of the horse that Walsh used to own at Barry Road. Won a couple of Aintree hurdles.
Yeah, I know who you mean, and for some reason it's not coming to mind.
Yeah, I can't think of his name either, but
2 words.
2 words, not whiskey sour. But I just like proven stamina, and he just doesn't have it.
No, he's perpetually underestimated, this horse, Lucky Place, and it's interesting that from the Relkeel, Nicky Henderson said Stayers hurdle.
Yeah.
Definite about it. Final look at the betting for the Stayers. So Mystical Power then. I can't have him as a stayer.
Again, no proven stamina, have you?
Yeah, I don't know what he is. I just know that he's having a difficult second album over hurdles.
He most definitely is. He seems in good form. I don't know. Annie was too free in the Stayers hurdle when she was beaten. Only just beaten, so she nearly got it, and maybe Galileo will have had a bit more stamina.
And Nemean Lion, are we overlooking him?
Again, if he won, you wouldn't say how did that happen, but I just couldn't fancy him right here, right now.
Okay. Right. So, let us head out to Nick before we move on to Friday.
Seems like a day ago. It was a year ago. I was speaking to the Durkin family and the assistant trainer Gary Bannon about Eagle Fang and how excited they were at having a Durkin runner here for the first time in years. Of course, the family goes back to Anna Glog's daughter and the late John Durkin, very much a part of Cheltenham folklore through his association with Istabrack. And Gary, you're back with these famous colours twice this year. Eagle Fang in the Coral Cup. You got another one in the Fred Winter, Holy See. How are you feeling this year?
Yeah, great to be back. Obviously, you come last year, you get one, you get the bug, you want to keep coming back. And yeah, no, we're really happy with the 2 horses, and the ground is probably more in our favour this year for both horses. So looking running, and hopefully they'll run good races.
Did it rain your chance away last year, effectively?
It probably did. The ground had just gone, and things just didn't work out for him on the day. And he went back to Punchestown and he won at the Punchestown Festival. So that's why we said we'll come back and have another go here this year with him. And he always was a horse that needed to step up in Trip 2. And we always knew he was going to have a future over longer. So he's back for the Coral Cup this year. And Oakley takes the ride, and he's had some good runs in graded company this year. So maybe back in a handicap, it could be interesting.
And is Holy See a better horse at the corresponding stage than Eagle Fang was last year?
They're very, very, very different horses. Holy See is probably a lazy horse, doesn't show a whole pile at home, and only kind of gets it together when he comes to the track. So we're really looking forward to him. He hasn't had the ground at home, Nick, at all this year, and hopefully the better ground and first-time cheek pieces would see a different horse.
Was there a bit of you last year thinking, oh God, that was my chance, I'm not going to be back for a few years?
No, because the lads have been very supportive of me, and Bill as well, and they've invested in the horse and training sales, and we've got lucky at them. And look, as I said, 6 months ago we bought Holy See, 7 months ago, and we're in Cheltenham, you know, so it's quite fun, to be honest. So hopefully we can keep coming back year on year and see can we get the blue colours back in the enclosure.
Quite right, having plenty of fun. There'll be a lot of support for you and for the Durkin family. Gary, best of luck.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you.
We move on to the Friday of the Cheltenham Festival, and we start with the JCB Triumph Hurdle. The betting is thus: East India Dock at last, and for a while now has been favoured at 15-8 to match the fact he has the best form coming into this. Lulamba, who has the rep, is 2-1. Hello Neighbour, who might be best of a muchness Irish crew, at 9-2, and then it's 9-1 and upwards the rest. Let's start by having a look at this East India Dock. For a juvenile, I'm finding it very difficult to find a flaw. Do you have one?
No. And I did, or I thought I did. I wasn't that keen on him before he won here on Trials Day, but I loved him after that. Loved the way he went to the first hurdle, low, wraps the top bar, really accurate with his jumping, really quick when he gets in deep, has the scope to stand out if he needs to, but he just likes what he's doing. He doesn't slow down, doesn't back off, he's as tough as nails. You can wind him up from the front, and look, Stencil will give you an idea when he runs in the Fred Winter here tomorrow afternoon as to how good this form is, but I was really taking with him on this occasion, and I think what gets by him will win the Triumph.
Yeah, Stencil and Quantock Hills. We've got in fact a number of this race running for you here to give you an idea of the English versus the Irish, British versus the Irish juveniles. But yeah, this was really, really impressive, and on the clock it's really impressive. time form like it a lot as well. We can have a look at how this horse compares coming into the Triumph Hurdle as compared to what you actually need to win it. Now, of course, there's a slight asterisk next to Burning Victory there. There would have been a monster number there had Goshen, who was 10 lengths clear when blundering and unseating Jamie Moore at the last. So that average, you know, is skewed. But East India Dock is, he was 169p coming in, this is Goshen, coming into the Triumph Hurdle, and East India Dock is only considered at this stage £3 behind. And so East India Dock is already good enough to win 2 of the last 5 runnings, 1 if, you know, with not betting without Goshen, if you see what I mean. But, you know, that P, small p, again expects improvement. That's a very high pre-Triumph. Yeah, pre-Triumph standard for a juvenile.
I think so too, and I even just his attitude, the way he goes, how to be able to ride him, he's just so uncomplicated.
Stays as well.
Yeah, stays really
Got
well.
everything.
Yeah, no negative.
Okay, so the horse that's said to be a bit special and certainly did nothing to detract from that when beating Mondo Man at Ascot is Lulamba.
And gave Mondo Man plenty of weight too. Travelled strongly on that occasion, jumped really well, hit the line, went through the line. Nothing to dislike about Lulamba. He was well touted, highly talked of, but he's going to have to find. I can't see him beating East India Dock on the bridle, so he's going to have to find to beat East India Dock. What's under the bonnet, I don't know. I know it's under the bonnet, but East India Dock, and he's not going to stop.
And he's also got a lot of experience on the flat as well, which will help.
Yeah.
But clearly, Nico de Boinville, Nicky Henderson in the winners' enclosure after Ascot were excited. They knew they had, and also it was kind of like the delivery on expectation excitement.
Yes, that was the vibe you got from it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise.
No, it definitely wasn't, and it's nice and it works out.
There might be an element of people on the outside going, oh, you know, it's a bit like Sir Gino, isn't it? You know, the Donnelly colours, all that kind of thing. But nonetheless, it was no. I can't say anything negative about that Ascot run. It's just the standard of the opposition is potentially deep. How deep is the Irish contingent this time around? We can have a look at the spring.
Yeah, you'd like to see one, and if not one, maybe 2 pull clear the rest of the field, and we haven't had that. You know, Hello Neighbour in the spring juvenile hurdle, it was a really slowly run race. Dunny Bill in the run, and Wendrock sat behind him. Back in Alien has won a couple since, but it was slowly running the 4 in the back. Yeah, the 4 at the back came to the 4. Just about got settled, Hello Neighbour. I think a stronger gallop in the Triumph will definitely help him. Gets a good split away from the second last. Right to the last, Keith Donoghue didn't commit him, jumped it well, reached a little bit, but he had too much guns then for Galileo Dame and Lady Vega Allen in the yellow and blue. Willie de Hoy coming from behind, but just forward and pulling away. You'd like 1 to go or 2 to go and put a bit of light between themselves in the field. It's the old saying, if you think you have 4 Derby horses, you have none.
Let's go through them individually. Hello Neighbour, the view is that he idled a bit in front there and that he can be covered up of a strong pace, and that could see him thrive in the Triumph.
Yeah, and he is a 1 mile and 6 winner on the flat too, so stamina shouldn't be any issue for him. And again on the flat he didn't win by that far in his couple of starts, so it could be very easy that he does idle in front. The hood definitely helped him, and Gavin Cromwell and Keith Donoghue hold him in high regard, and to be fair to both of them, they're not 2 guys for blowing their own trumpets, you know what I mean? If they're talking about one, you should listen.
As things stand, there's very, very strong vibes are that Galileo Dame is going to take advantage of the weight for age allowance and head towards the Dawn Run rather than taking on the likes of East India Dock and Hello Neighbour and Lulamba in the Triumph Hurdle.
Yeah, I think that Mare's Novice Hurdle is really competitive too. I don't think either or is an easy option for her, and I think she has to jump a little bit better. She was sticky the first day, she was quite handy, she was better the second day, but she has to improve her jumping.
I think she needs cover as well. So, but I mean, I do think that
What's she by?
Galileo, I assume.
She mightn't improve jumping.
I don't think she enjoyed leading.
No.
And that helped her the second time around, and also she's got a lot of experience from the flat. She was rated 96. That will help her, I think.
It will, but she's still cautious. That'll be.
And Lady Vega Allen.
Galileo Gold, isn't she?
Yeah.
Galileo Dame.
Of course.
Who's by Galileo, but
yes.
that trade is there.
Yeah.
She's cautious.
Lady Vega Allen.
Lady Vega Allen, I would think would like a drop her in, handle soft ground. Good filly, but needs to improve another little bit as well.
Another British raider that's of interest is Gibbs Island, and he won the Victor Ladorum at Haydock. He had a lot of experience on the flat as well in Ireland. I quite liked this performance.
He was quite keen. Did get settled when he got down the back straight in the headlock. Third last hurdle, he ends up getting up sides after jumping in behind him. Grabs a bit at the second last and almost out in his head, but he did go away and win well. Gibbs Island just has to improve on it, Lydia. How strong was the form?
Yeah, I think you're more taking it that I think the circumstances of the Triumph Hurdle are going to help. I think he'll settle a bit better. I do think he'll like a test of stamina. I don't think he went further than 10 furlongs on the flat, but actually he looks like that might be a good thing for him.
And you could see that in the way he raced. He was quite keen early, but he did settle after a mile or so.
Yeah, obviously he's got to improve, but you know.
Yeah, you never know.
Very much going the right way. Let's have a look at the betting. Anything at bigger prices that we've glossed over? Palladium, so first of all, actually, we should talk about, who I thought jumped carefully and wasn't that impressive at Huntingdon.
Didn't blow me away at Huntingdon. Had a reach at the last and needed a jump to win. Actually, Palladium did, but no, I didn't. I think Willie could run 8 or 9 here, Lydia. Lady Vegallen, Charles, St. Lucie, Place de la Nation, Larzac, Papano, Blue Lemons, Too Bossy for us, Willie de Hool, Poneros. I think they all run. Plenty of runners.
Big field, could well be. Right, traditional Triumph. Let's hope it is. Let's move on to the Albert Dartlet. Over 3 miles, and again, this has me scratching my head. Here's the betting. Final Demand won't be running here.
No.
The Yellow Clay is 3-1. Won't be running here. The Big Westerner is likely to be the favourite.
Yeah, and that's been, I don't know, I guess those horses have been in the betting for a long time, but yeah, the Big Westerner, she won her maiden hurdle at Punchestown, went to Limerick, quite unexposed really, but she did win well at Limerick. It was a really slowly run race. No one wanted to make the run in, and that got the Big Westerner really onto Darragh O'Keefe's hands. Jumped solidly and was always close enough to the pace, but she never really spat it out. She will have to settle a bit better now. I think a stronger gallop from the word go would help her. Really big jump at the second last, and she put plenty of daylight between herself and Minna 6-0 from the last home. Mozzie's sister and Fleur in the Park, who didn't stay, but look, she's a fine big mare who can only be getting better, and yeah, she's a worthy favourite, but a vulnerable favourite, I would say. Would
she want the ground to be a bit more testing?
Possibly, but I don't think it was that slow when she won at Ferryhouse, or Punchestown, I mean, when she beat Argento Boy. That wasn't that bad.
And I suppose that, I was about to say, not at this level, but then again, Argento Boy is the kind of level
yeah,
that she is
he could be.
encountering.
I thought he would run a lot better than he ran in the Cheltenham Bumper last year. I thought he was really disappointing in that contest, but yeah, look, he did win a maiden hurdle since. He got beaten at Leopardstown, but he won a maiden hurdle since Argento Boy. But the Big Westerner, she's a good mare going in the right direction, but I don't know. Albert Bartlett can throw up the odd surprise, can't it?
It can do, it can do. Ruby mentioned the champion bumper from last season. That, of course, was won by Jasmine DeBow, who has been slow to improve over hurdles. There were a bit more signs that he was finally learning how to put his feet in the right places when he was fourth in Nathaniel Lacey. But Wingman did better than him in second.
He did, and Wingman has been going the right direction and was placed as well behind the Yellow Clay at Naas, wasn't he? Wingman, who was along in front. Jasmine DeVoe, you can see him on the outside here. He is starting to figure out, his brain is just about getting the message to his feet to get them off the ground quick enough. But when he's fine once he gets in close. If he has to stand out, he doesn't want to, and he gets in close again, and that's what costs him. I think the nature of this track might suit him. 3 hurdles way over there where you won't be really competitive. Only 2 hurdles in the last 6 furlongs or 7 furlongs. That might help him, and he's a Cheltenham Bumper winner, but he has to go to get by Wingman.
And Wingman stepping up in trip, he
could
keeps finding a little bit of improvement all the time.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that last year. Watched him as a bumper horse wingman even. He was quite a tearaway, but jumps have definitely settled him down.
We have a French raider here, Jet Blue, who's already won here at Cheltenham, and we heard from Professor Caroline Tisdall, who owns this horse, how James Wheeler was having to basically school him over these new hurdles. What are these? They don't look like French hurdles.
He looked very behind the bridle, didn't he, on his here, and for a horse with all the runs that he'd had in France, he just kept jamming on early. James set him alight plenty far out as well. When he did get him going, he kind of thought, well, now I have you going, I'm going to keep you going, and when he got him going, he was good. But bit of a scare at the last hurdle for him now in the second as well, but it was a staying performance. He came from the back, he got involved early, quickened off the bend, put the race to bed and galloped out through the last hurdle. I think he definitely has a chance. I think the Albert Bartlett, though, you can make a case for so many horses. Jet Blue definitely has a chance. You could say the same for Flicker of Hope. I just mentioned Argento Boy, Fishery Lane, and I'm going back up because I thought that Wendigo is another one too. And obviously when you see the new Lion on Wednesday, it'll tell you more about him. But look, at least you know with JetBlue he's going to stay, and that is half the battle.
And has that horse experience. Let's linger a little bit on the betting before we head out to Nick, because there's quite a lot to sort of take on board in terms of horses with potential at bigger prices. Wendigo, you mentioned, who shaped when second in the Challow as though he'd very much like the step up in trip.
He did. He came home strongly in the Challow, and yeah, I definitely thought he would. Has won subsequently, which won't have done his confidence any harm. And I thought, looking at him in the Challow, he was one for this.
And Ballybow, who was the winner at Clonmel last time, and I got the impression might be better return to a left-handed track.
Yes, and grounded out to beat Ballygunner Castle. Was a bit unlucky in a maiden hurdle in Down Royal on St Stephen's Day, but has definitely stepped forward. And he looked tough in Clonmel. I do believe Allaho beat Manila Indo in that same race.
Indeed. Indeed, a significant race that. And we must mention Derry Hassan Paddy for Lucinda Russell and Peter Scudable. They've won this race before with Brindisi Breeze, and they think he's as good as any horse that they've run in this race, and it's clear that he is the apple of Peter Scudamore's eye. He's the next Corrit Rambler. There'll never be another Corrit Rambler, but he's certainly bringing a smile to their faces.
You can always dream, Lydia.
Well, I quite liked him at Windsor. I think he didn't like that track at all. This will be much more suitable, and I know that a lot of people quite fancy him to run well. Let's go out and join Nick.
Guy Lavender is the new chief executive here at Cheltenham Racecourse. Guy, how are you feeling on the eve of your first festival?
Well, very excited. We've had a brilliant last week of preparation with the sun shining. It's been fantastic. So as you move towards tomorrow, it just builds and builds and builds in terms of numbers of staff on site, getting ready, horses in yesterday, out. It was just wonderful. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Very confident.
What was your first official day in the role of CEO?
So I started on the 1st of January.
Yeah.
It was my first day here. So it's been quite a short run-in, but I had a good opportunity over the course of the autumn and the winter to come and watch the racing, understand how Cheltenham operates, and Ian Renton is around to give me a hand where needed. But no, it's brilliant. There's a very good team here, and we've prepared well this year.
What's the single most powerful thing that struck you about this place and this institution in those 8-9 weeks?
It sounds a bit trite, but there is a bit of magic around the racecourse and the place, and the sort of site of the sort of natural amphitheatre of Cleve Hill and being here with the big crowds. That's very significant. The other thing that is significant is the size and scale of it. It's a complex, big site, particularly for the festival. So that's the real thing that struck with me. But I've met some incredible people, both at the racecourse and in racing more broadly. So I've really enjoyed my first few months. And
you've come from working at Lord's as well, which is hallowed and is revered by its patrons, much as this place is. Now, you wrote a letter earlier this week, slightly managing expectations as regards the crowd. What was the thinking behind doing that? Well,
I think the thinking was just to be clear with people around where we are, set out what we consider to be the important factors for the festival this year, and that's delivering a brilliant festival for customers. It's not so much about the overall numbers. Rather like investments, they go up and down from time to time, and it was a difficult year last year, which I think has been readily acknowledged with a number of improvements made for the festival this year. So I think it was trying to be clear, honest with people, but that shouldn't detract from what we can deliver over the next 4 days. The racing programme looks fantastic. Everyone will have their own view around the changes that were made, but we're really excited. We're really well prepared, and I think we're going to have a fabulous 4 days.
When you've been meeting your senior team and briefing all your staff, your huge staff, both permanent and casual staff during the course of the week, what has been your key message? What have been the key themes that you've been trying to instill into them to make this week great for the customers?
Well, it really is about the customer. So trying to get them to make sure that they understand the necessity to make decisions based on what the customer needs, to be responsive, to be reactive, to make sure the welcome of people coming into the racecourse is right, the service levels are right. That's really the key, and to have fun. I mean, this is a festival in its truest sense. It's an iconic sporting event. It's an amazing experience, and we want the staff to feel like that. And if they feel like that, all the race goers and owners and trainers and sponsors will respond to that, I'm sure, in a very positive way. So, yeah, no, it should be really, really good fun.
Guy, thank you very much. Best of luck.
Thanks, Nick.
An iconic sporting event with an iconic champion lining up to try and win a third Cheltenham Gold Cup. The betting for Galopin de Champs' attempt on this Boodle-sponsored event is thus 4-9. He is the favourite. Again, brilliant at Banbridges here. The King George winner taking him on, next in at 4-1. Also good news that I know the way you're thinking has been supplemented after that significant bit of work last Friday, 13-2. Monty Stars here, 12-1. Corbett's Cross, 14-1. And it is 40-1 and upwards the rest. Is there anything to stop Galopin Des Champs winning his 3rd Gold Cup? Can you see a flaw for the others to exploit?
No, I don't see a flaw in him, but he is an open book and he has improved throughout his career. This was him winning his first Gold Cup, dropped in down the inside towards the back after being a very exuberant novice, and this was a brilliant race. Brave Man's Game goes off the bend, he comes to join him, and they went at it to the last, and I don't think poor Brave Man's Game has ever quite gotten over this. Conflated back in 3rd and Protectorat in 4th. That was brilliant, but you know, every day is a learning day, and as he's gotten older, Galopin Des Champs has become a more straightforward horse and has turned even more into a stayer. And I don't see any flaw, but if you're riding against him, you know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to pop out, he's going to be up there on the pace. This is him last year, lined up much handier, long press just inside him. The real whacker, I imagine, again will be the pace, Lydia, on Friday afternoon. I think Paul will actually be where long press was for the majority of that Gold Cup. Loose horse here, didn't bother him, put Jerry Colomb into the pocket, jumped the last. Paul said he needed to be at his best to win, but it's Gold Cups, you should be at your best to win them. That said, he is probably scared off some of the opposition this year, but that's what champions do, and I think he's a wonderful horse, and I hope he wins the 3rd Gold Cup.
Yeah, if you look back at Best Mates Gold Cup, Arkles, Golden Millers, Cottage Rakes, those fields were relatively small as well.
But when anyone gets dominant in any division, they do tend to frighten off the opposition. That's what brilliance in sport should do. It's supposed to be dominant, it's not supposed to be hanging in there. Look at, he's jumping. Even here, the confidence Paul has in him didn't go overly strong on him, and yet he quickened up really well to win the Irish Gold Cup the last day, Bucks out in front. And there are a couple of horses in this race that maybe could give him a race now, but look, even when he needs him, that last ditch in Leopardstown puts you on the right foot. You only have to wind him up for one jump to put you in the right place in the race, and this fella can give you that jump. You
say he's an open book, which obviously he is. We've seen his career over a number of seasons now, but he's a difficult horse to actually threaten, though, isn't he? Because he can do different things. If you press at him early, he's going to enjoy that.
Loves it. Like, the only thing we haven't saw someone do or tried to do to him in recent times is jump out and go and drag him. No, I don't see the horse in this race that can do it. But like, if you had not an Ile Francais, but say a Factifile, if you change tactics on him, something that could actually go and drag him, possibly. But I don't see a horse in this race that can do that.
I think he'll enjoy that as well. How about trying to get to him late?
Yeah, but I just can't see Paul Townend waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly, every which way.
And he's not going to wait either. Like, when Paul goes off the bend on him to the second last and sends him down to the last fence, he's not going to jam on and wait in front. He's not going to do a white bite like and wander off across the track. He's just go straight to gun barrel, and yeah, he's an open book.
Yeah, ride a waiting race for a finish, but you'll have that finish drawn out of you.
Just sucked out of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right, but we do have Banbridge here, and he's shown that he has the stamina for 3 miles in a King George, albeit it was a King George that favoured pace.
It did. Look, he popped out handy, got in deep at the first fence, got behind Spillan's Tower and found himself towards the back of the field beside Corbett's Cross. And Corbett's Cross is jumping at the back in the green cap at the White Star. That's still his Achilles heel. He was the winner of the National Hunt Chase last year, but he just gets too high. And I think he can get himself out of the Gold Cup early. Banbridge then was able to tag on to the back of horses that could drag him close enough to Ile Francais that he was able to run him down. I think he got a brilliant ride as well to win the King George, and yeah, I think it was a brilliant training performance. But like I said it earlier, I just think Joseph's horses were absolutely on fire at Christmas, and I think he'll have to be as good to get to finish second, let alone beat Galopin Des Champs as this.
Drying ground is clearly a huge positive for him.
Key. Absolutely vital to him. Look, he did run in last year's Ryanair on slow ground. He ran poorly. He's been a non-runner at the festival in the past, but I do think the dry ground is key to him. But 3 1/4 is a different ball game.
Yeah, extra 2.5 furlongs. It's specialism territory, really.
Yeah,
That's what makes Galopin Des Champs special, because he stays that thoroughly, and yet he has some pace for us.
He does, and it's just at that level too. Like, you might get 3 1/4 if you didn't have a Galopin Des Champs in there, but he's going to drag it out of you.
How about cheek pieces on Corbett's Cross?
Yeah, they might work. They might help him. I just think he just gets too high.
But that will help, won't it? That could focus him. I mean, I don't know this is going to happen. I'm preempting.
I don't know. I don't
You're
know
not
will it help
convinced?
him. No, I just don't. I just think he doesn't want to touch the fences, and I don't think cheek pieces are going to get him down any lower.
Okay.
I'd have ran him in the stairs, sir.
But a horse that was supplemented is, I know the way you're thinking. We're going to go into him in some detail, but first of all, let's have a look at him finishing 4th in the Irish Gold Cup and Monty Star finishing 5th.
Yes, and just look, we're watching the same race again, but look, Monty Star probably wants a truly run race. He didn't get it. He booked out handy. I know the way you're thinking was dropped in a little bit, but I know the way you're thinking, Lydia, definitely jumped better here than I've seen him jump in the past. You see him there jumping up past Grange Clare West onto the back of Hewick. Now, this was here. He could either be deep to the 5th, 4th last. Again at the ditch, he's gotten back a bit and he gets in and he's safe. And at the second last fence, he heads off out to his right for some reason and gets quite slow at that fence. But he was better than they saw him jumping before. This is him in last year's Kim Muir, jams on at the first with Derek O'Connor and gets himself into no man's land before getting back into the race and winning in the common canter. When you look at him now, he was absolutely chucked in. And then when he stepped up the Grade 1 company at Aintree last year, got tight down the inside of the 3rd last behind Rocco in the green cap of the White Star, had to switch across to the 2nd last, but you wouldn't believe he was going to be in front before he got to the last. Watching him there, that was a turn of foot that he had. He's a very good horse. Heartwood, Rocco, Chianti Classico, he beat them in a Grade 1 novice. He's definitely coming forward with every run this year, and I think he jumped better than he ever jumped at Leopardstown the last day.
I think he's coming forward with his jumping with every run. It's just whether he's coming forward swiftly enough for a race on Friday.
I couldn't agree more with you, but the one thing you're guaranteed with him is stamina.
Yeah, he's going to like that.
I think he has the stamina. I think if he gets onto the tail of him, he is the one horse that could be coming at gallop in the show.
And it's interesting, we spoke to Gavin Cromwell on Thursday about sort of reassessing what to do with this horse, because initially he wasn't entered in the Gold Cup. They were saying no, not the Grand National. Then he was entered in the Grand National. Then they had to choose between the Grand National and here, essentially, because, you know, it's a big ask to go from the Gold Cup to the National.
It is, or you could go and beat Gallop in the Champ and be 15 well in the National.
Theoretically, but
Theoretically,
I'm talking about the
it's all a
physical
dream,
task
isn't
of
it?
The physical task of
the
it.
physical task of it would be. Yeah, it'd be difficult, but it's not impossible.
No, and so it does suggest that what he's doing is potentially just a little bit outstripping expectation, and Gavin did confirm that.
Yeah, I'd say he is. I'm trying to think. Rough Crest was second and went and won a Grand National. Hedge Hunter was second in the Gold Cup, went and was second in the National. And I'm sure there's way more, but you can be done, yeah.
Back to Monty Star. I can.
You're making a case for Monty Star.
I am going to make
the case.
I can see him finishing second, and yeah, a good second potentially. In that last season as a novice, he never got an end-to-end gallop over 3 miles. He clearly wants that. This season, something clearly happened in the early part of the season because we didn't see him to New Year's Day. That can't have been the plan. He took a good step forward from there to the Irish Gold Cup. I expect him to take another step forward again. Henry de Bromhead hasn't been talking about him, which is a good sign.
All right.
And I just think that he is going to get those things. He's going to get a strongly run race. He's going to get a test of stamina, and he's going to be coming here on an upward curve. That's my view.
Fair enough.
Do you not like it? Go on, give it.
No,
give me
fair
your view.
enough. I just think he could have made the run himself any day as a novice and got himself an end-to-end gallop. I think he's a good horse. I think he's more of a Grand National horse myself. But
Jumps well.
Does jump well, and he travels. Just doesn't win.
Jump well is more of an asset these days, potentially in the Gold Cup as well.
It is, yeah.
Betting
we won't
again.
go there yet.
So, anything else here? I mean, the real Wacker ran well for a very long way in last year's race.
He did.
He shapes more like a stayer this time round. He was unsuited by the King George.
He is, yeah, I agree with you there. Jungle Boogie, I thought was too keen in last year's Gold Cup. He's
Might
still
go
in
for the
here.
Ryanair.
I hope he goes to the Ryanair. Looks the ideal trip for him. A High Senior Royal Pagai. No, I mean, to me, it all goes back to the top of the market. And look, Guy Lavender was talking about the amphitheatre that Cleve Hill makes this place. I think the amphitheatre that this new stand we're standing on has made this place, and I think it'll erupt on Friday. Erupt in genuine appreciation of a brilliant horse.
Yeah, I mean, I love Galloping the Show. I do just want to mention that the Hoy Senior, because there was an update from Lucinda Russell on Nick's podcast that was out earlier today. He's had a wind operation, and she said that, interestingly, he's changed shape since then. And so although they've never really had anything that signalled a breathing issue. She wonders whether that actually might have been troubling him for longer than they realised.
So if he's changed shape, does that mean he's gotten fitter?
Well, she said, is it a good shape or a bad shape? I don't know, but she said physically she's
posing the question.
Changed. Yeah.
I mean,
and he was running very well 2 years ago when getting the 6 out run.
Yeah, he's always a broad, square horse behind. I wonder, has he gotten a little leaner, fitter?
Could be.
Maybe, yeah.
Could be. So he could
Don't see too many heavy long-distance athletes.
A big price. It would be amazing for Galopin Des Champs to do it. I hope he does. I know in Ireland he's properly celebrated as the best horse trained there since Arkle. He's the best horse I've seen here, betting without when Sprinter Sacre was at his absolute peak over 2 miles. Best staying chaser I've seen since Courte Star, and Courte Star's a bit more than that as well, more adaptable.
Yeah, different horses, different generations, but look, of his generation, Galopin is incredible. I think sport needs flagship horses. You'd love if Constitution Hill didn't miss last year's champion hurdle. You'd love if he was coming here to win a 3rd champion hurdle, as well as Galopin Des Champs was going to win a 3rd Gold Cup. But look, at least we have one of them.
We do.
Winning 3.
That's our view of the Gold Cup, and when you rejoin us, we'll be talking about Wednesdays with the decks.
Cabana is obviously Blue Brezel. He's a store horse, so he's been in the yard all winter. Big and backward. Like when I first saw him work, I thought this is going to be a long haul with this fella. But every week he got a bit sharper. He's very laid back. He only does exactly what you ask him when you ask him, to the degree you ask him. So we went to Nav with him because we wanted a track which wasn't, not like a punchdown where you turn in and you have to pick up and go. Navan is a 3 furlong straight. And you can see all the way down the straight, every time I hit my slap down the shoulder, he's coming on it, and I'm able to sit. And then once I've gone for him and I'm hitting 1 or 2 behind the saddle, he's flown. And that looked a bumper with a lot of depth in it. So I was very taken with that performance.
They're off. Constitution Hill, one of the hurdling greats. Spectacular, Ray Dorney, Langadan. Alan King and Tom Cannon in the Arkle. Edward Snowwind. Daystar is out in front. Barry Cobden and for Paul Nichols. Slade Steele, Gaelic Warrior. Stateman has his day in the sun.
Lofty Mouth and pull down and Ballyburn opens up. Back to File and Mark Walsh.
Captain Guinness, Chiuko pouring it on. This is the champion.
Okay, so we've been quickly assimilating the implications of headgear, choice of races, jockey bookings, that kind of thing for Wednesdays.
I feel a question coming here that I'm not going to know the answer to.
No, not yet. No, don't worry. I'm not bowling a whistler past your ears. I'm just preparing everybody for some stuff that we're going to talk about. We'll start with the Turners Novices Hurdle. There seemed to be some chatter out there about whether Final Demand would actually be declared for this. The Cheltenham camp has never deviated at any point from this, this race.
No, and Cheltenham camp can deviate. There's no doubt about that.
We know that.
But no, Willie always felt this fella physically was just going to be the right race for him, and that's where he's going. Drying ground, I suppose, maybe not, but he's been usurped at the top of the market by the new Lion, who's won the Challow. The last Challow winner to win this race was...
Hasn't.
Oh, I forgot that. And he's the favourite. Final Demand was, I thought, very good at the Dublin Racing Festival, and I think it's a cracking race. Yellow Clouds, good winner in Ace, Potter's Charm, 6 Mile Bridge. Should they be that way in the market?
Well, Potter's Charm is wearing first-time tongue tie, interestingly, and clearly 6 Mile Bridge, who had been given some medication which was permitted in training but hadn't come out of his system, and we'll know more about that when the inquiry is actually held. He's been disqualified after passing the post first in that race. Don't know is my answer, because obviously Potter's Charm was kind of put into that race at the last minute without necessarily having been prepared with that race in mind. They had said to go straight to the festival, then they got tempted.
Yeah, lured in, but I did like how 6 Mile Bridge came home. I think it's an interesting race, Lydia, and again, changes, 1 or 2 of these may well have ended up in handicaps in the past, and they're all here.
I'm interested in that betting at the top, and the new Lion now edging Final Demand in the Paddy Power market, and presumably that is concerns about the drying ground. Should we take a look at him?
Yes, fine big horse who made a very eye-catching debut at Limerick. I love the way he jumped in the orange colours in the third place here. He just latched onto the hurdles in Limerick with Danny Mullins, and you wouldn't even notice him getting off the ground at that one. And he jumped himself right up, almost to lead after jumping a couple of hurdles at Limerick with Danny. Look, it was a maiden hurdle. Will the Wise, I think, is behind him there in the green with the yellow cap, who runs in the Pertemps. He then went to the DRF, sat into the box seat under Paul Townend in Professor Caroline Tisdale's colours, angled himself out early enough in the contest when he needed to, across to the second last here to get a run. The manner and how quickly he put this race to bed, gets outside Mozzie's sister and Wingmen. He's travelling really well, and he opened up to go and win. Now it is 2 miles and 6, but look, they're turning in here at 2.5 and he had the race won, so coming down the trip wouldn't bother me, and I think he's a very good horse. I wouldn't be overly worried about the ground. I just hope there's a good enough gallop for him. The turners, as it is now, can get tactical at times. There's been slow additions, quick additions. It can get tactical.
It's a race where if you've got a 2 mile hurdler, it can be run steadily enough, and actually a turn of foot is the key to it. But surely it's within Paul Townend's and maybe other people at stable companions' hands to decide how the turn is run.
It is, but I know I didn't go fast enough on Denman. I suppose, definitely from an Irish jockey's point of view, the biggest sin in the world is going too fast, and we can often be guilty of going a fraction slower then. So, you know, it just is to get into your head that I actually have to go strong on this fella, and that's at times easier said than done.
If we just take another look, if we can, at the betting for that, and I just wonder whether any of the horses from Willie Mullins's might be the kind of horse to lead.
Made it the last day. Couldn't see Kellis Toar making it. To be surprised if Ked Doughty he did. Super Sunday is quite keen.
Now the hood remains on for him, but the tongue tie's off.
Tongue tie's off. Tongue tie was put on to see if it would help him settle, but it didn't work in Leopardstown. He could win, maybe one that might go forward. Super Sunday. Kiss Will was ridden handily the last day, but he's a very relaxed horse. He wouldn't strike you as a horse that's going to drag a field a good gallop. But Capish Pike definitely benefited from going forward at Punchestown, so maybe he would.
Okay. Interesting. The New Lion then, who represents the Skeltons and looked very, very good indeed in the Challow.
Yeah, look, Newbury obviously jumped ship, so we don't have any footage of him, but he was good in the Challow, beat Wendigo. He was very impressive. Lydia, he travels well, he jumps well, he looks like he has a really good turn of foot. I was listening to a couple of jockeys last night actually. They were both fairly adamant that Harry Skelton had his legs well on the New Line on this occasion, and maybe he mightn't have been as impressive as he looked. They were English-based jockeys as well, so I was listening. But he was impressive. He looks quick horse, doesn't he?
Well,
quick for the trip, I mean.
Yeah, potentially. Although that we saw some data on last Thursday, didn't we, with Page, that might make you start to question. But that has been the assumption, and hence I think that's why the betting is reading like this.
Yeah, I suppose it's easy to look quick against slower horses, but. Look, he is a good horse, and you'd have to respect the regard in which the Skeltons hold him.
Yeah, okay. Let's take a look at the Lawlers of Naas, shall we? This is the Yellow Clay winning this, and this is a horse that I think will be fully effective on good to soft ground, even though he handles more testing. Well,
we were both in Naas on this occasion, and Gordon Elliott was thinking about taking him out. He had to go after the two in front and withdraw him because of the soft ground. He genuinely believes he's a better horse on drier ground. Again, Wingmen in front. He comes and joins him going to the second last hurdle, jumps it really well, and he pulled well clear of Super Sunday and Jasmine DeVoe. And good ground is going to make him a better horse. So again, recency bias. You haven't seen him since early January. You slightly forget about him. But I'd say he's a very good horse, the Yellow Clay.
I like how straightforward he is. I like how versatile he is. I like everything about him, really.
Yeah, and he's going to go along in the first couple, isn't he?
We're well positioned.
Yeah.
He's got a bit of pace to him as well.
He will be. Like the New Line is going to sit in a little bit. Not drop in, but he's going to sit in behind it. You can see Final the Man going forward. I could see the Yellow Clay going forward, maybe one more of Willie's, but they're going to be in good positions. And it's the kind of race too on novices that when you get back a little bit down the hill from 3 out to the second last, that inside rail, you don't want to go too far in on a novice because it does entice them to look inside it. You can end up, when you're coming from behind, very wide into the home straight on a novice in that 2.5 mile novice hurdle, and that's not good. I ended up on the wide outside and saw Young one day. Yanworth got pushed very wide another day. You just can get 5-6 wide without realising it.
Okay, right. It will be the Brown Advisory next, but first we can rejoin Nick.
All right, Danny Mullins is with me, and he and I are both trying to work out exactly what you're going to be riding this week. Genuinely, you could be on a bunch of horses you don't know you're riding yet who could have big chances.
Definitely, yeah. There's a lot of them there Wednesday that have great chances, and you know, there's probably multiple ones that you make a good case for. So we're looking at the phone. Willie hasn't done his deck, so it's no joke. We don't make it up that we don't know what's happening until late.
No, you do know what you're riding tomorrow, obviously. Carnaque, people are sort of saying sneaky little each way chance in the Supreme. Do you think the same?
I think so. You know, he learned and settled better from Christmas to the Dublin Festival. That form with second behind Kopek de Boards reads quite well, and I think a strongly run race in the Supreme, yeah, could suit him.
And you've got a hood on as well. Does that suggest the way you're going to ride him, just creep and creep?
I'd imagine so. I rode him out here this morning, and for a novice that can get excited, he was quite chilled at the gallop, so that definitely is encouraging for his chances as well.
And the other two have actually got pretty obvious chances, Jade de Grugy and Captain Cody. Do you think Jade de Grugy can lay it down to Lossiemouth?
Who knows? Like, Lossiemouth's form, you know, is probably a lot more flashy, but Jade de Grugy will improve an awful lot from her comeback this year. She was good. Was probably fancied to beat Brighter Days Ahead and then Mayor's Novice last year, and both of them underperformed a bit.
Form looks all right now, doesn't it?
It looks, yeah, you know, when she's coming up the straight with her, a good win in the Grade 1 in Fairy House to cap off the season. So, yeah, I think she's untapped potential still.
I know you were very lucky to escape quite serious injury when Lossiemouth fell in the Dublin Racing Festival. Was she giving you a feel to that point?
Oh, she was, yeah. Like, you know, it's easy to say it, but you know, both myself and Paul were very happy at the time. So who knows? Like, I think Lossiemouth will be hard to beat, but you know, I'm on the other one now, so I'll have to go out there and try and do it.
And Captain Cody in the National Hunt Chase, it does look sort of anybody's race. What are the key credentials for this horse, do you think?
Yeah, he's relaxed, he jumps and he stays. You know, 3-6 around here. Is this the first year of it as a professional race?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's probably like similar to riding in a national style race. You know, it's get into a nice rhythm. It's the old course. The fences will be coming at those stairs quite fast, so you know, a good jumping rhythm through it, and I think he ticks all those boxes. So, you know, Patrick is on the one for Neil Mulholland. He's won around here, but I think Captain Cody has a big chance of winning.
Is that your Wednesday rides coming through?
No, David Mullins coming with something probably.
Well, that'll be
right.
completely useless. So if you were going to petition to ride any of Wednesdays, what would there be? I mean, things that Paul aren't riding, the Dancing Cities of this world, and a whole glut of horses in the Turners behind Final Demand, and horses in the Bumper and so on.
Yeah, I suppose there's plenty of them there, a lot of exciting novices. I've won a few on Dancing City and he's looked good so far. Queen de Bourbon is there, he was good in Goran winning the last day as well, so there's a lot of them you can make a case for, and yes, we'll wait and see, eagerly watching and waiting.
And from your point of view, just sort of standing and watching and sometimes sitting and feeling all the young horses in the stable, who excites you the most? Who do you think, well, I just can't see this horse beat this week?
Final Demand, he looks pretty solid. You know, I won on him in Limerick, a maiden down there, and the way he picked up that day, I thought this is a proper horse, and you know, he settled well in Leopardstown. He was fresh and we went steady in Limerick, but in Leopardstown he was a real professional and hit the line strong. I think he'll be hard to beat, but hopefully I'll end up on another one and try and beat him.
Well, everyone's smiling this morning, aren't they? It's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
So Danny Mills on Dancing City in the Brown Advisory, Patrick Mullins on Quay de Bourbon, Paul Tannen has chosen Ballyburn. Here is the betting for this novices chase. And this is a race that has benefited from the conditions changes to the week. Ballyburn first off, starting by his defeat by Sir Gino at Kempton over 2 miles. In the context of what I think he is now, I liked this.
Yeah, and the first thing we did try and go with Sir Gino, who was incredible on that occasion, and jumped brilliantly, but I love the way that Ballyburn hung into him. He's not a 2 mile chaser, he doesn't jump like one, but he did jump, I thought, reasonably well beside a horse of Sir Gino's calibre. He hung into him. Now, he missed the last, but at that stage Paul Townend was thinking about getting to the back of it, and Ballyburn was still wanting to have a go. He went to the DRF then, a little bit keen inside Champ Criley, Crop Patrick on the outside, but I love the way he jumped. Paul was able to get him back, get him to chill a little bit. He did settle with him, and he does throw his head in the ground, and he's always leaning against you. But I loved, got in deep here, nothing chancy about him, lost that fraction of ground, but look, jumped the second last well, hard on the bridle, gets out jumped at the last, and I loved what he did then from the last home. He got back to Croke Park, and the further he was going, the more impressive he was going to be.
Will he settle, and does he want this trip?
I think it's tailor-made for him, and I think he will settle sufficiently. He won't switch off, because he does have a low head carriage, and he's always going to be sitting against you. I can't see there being a loop in the rain, but I'd actually be worried if there was a loop in the rain.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be him behaving to tide. No. Right, Dancing City only had the 2 runs over fences, and is that experience enough?
I'd be more worried about the runs than the experience. I think he's a good solid jumper, but the more runs he got over hurdles, the better a horse he became. He did win at the DRF, he was third here in the Alba Bartlett. Looked like he was getting outpaced, turning out of the back in entry last year. Shanna Bob was inside him, but by the time he got to the second last hurdle, he was hard on the bridle and he was all over the jukebox man. So look, he's definitely improved with each run he got as a hurdler, and he bolted in, and he went from there back to Aintree. So he went to all 3 festivals last year. He was at Punches Cheltenham, he went to Aintree, and then he went back to Punchestown. We ran into quite a number of the horses that he's going to face tomorrow afternoon in the Grade 1 novice there, and staying is his sport day. This is slow motion stuff, isn't it, at Aintree, but he does stay really well. Yeah,
I think he's being slightly pigeonholed as a plodder, and I don't think he is just that, because it might be the thing you're saying, that he improved with experience last time, because he did get him paced to win the Sefton, but then he went to Punchestown and actually he showed a turn of foot on good to soft ground.
Yeah, looked like he got some better days ahead. Stellar story. I just wondered though with him, is it fitness? Was it actually racing?
Yes.
Did that more so than experience? Did each run improve him? And with only 2 starts this season, obviously he was late starting because of the dry autumn. He wanted a trip, so he was kept till he got a longer distance beginner's chase. This is him, high class hero, comes down, he's outside, but no, he's not slow, but definitely racing improved him last year, and that might be the slight worry for him this year with only the 2 runs.
We've seen him twice over fences. This is him beating Bioluminescence. She ended up conceding him weight, but nonetheless, I've got a positive opinion about both of them.
So do I, but it's just his jumping. I mean, there's no worry about him jumping. He knows how to get in. He's able to stand out. He was good at Punchestown. He was better here at Naas, and he's going the right direction. I just, in my own mind, don't have him in the same. I'm a sucker for the class, and to me, Ballyburn is a class year horse.
And perhaps that fitness of so many races last season, and having just 2 runs for the Brown Advisory is statistically not a good thing. So there's some doubts, I think, for me about Dancing City as we see him cross the line. Let's take a look at the clash between Better Days Ahead and Stellar Story.
At Navan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the race IQ doesn't tell you. It tells Stellar Story jumped actually well, but to watch him to your eye, Stellar Story doesn't do much for me. He's a bit launchy. You can guess, see how high he gets there. I'd say to ride him, he's quite a, I'm not going to say difficult, but definitely would have your heart in your mouth because you're not really sure what he's going to do, and that's not a nice feeling when you're heading to a fence. I thought Better Days Ahead kept going really well here, and look, Danny Gilligan, I know if I was on him, I wouldn't have been firing him down over the last couple of fences either. Stellar Story, so his jumping has to improve. Better Days Ahead is tough though, and only did enough, and he grounded out to win.
Stellar Story was entered in the stayers hurdle at one point, so that tells you something. I think he was conceding weight here when giving Better Days Ahead a fright. I do think this kind of test will suit Better Days Ahead. Final look at the betting. Gorgeous Tom is one that I could have on my mind.
Yeah,
on
I
this
could have
ground.
it too. Could come home really well, Lydia. And look, as you said at the beginning, this is one of the races that's benefited from the changes. But the real worrying thing is that we have 12 horses for 2 Grade 1 novice chases. The supply chain, not the races in Cheltenham, are the problem, and that's a big worry for the industry.
100%. We don't have time to discuss that now,
No.
but we should do that. We have time to discuss one final race, and that is the centrepiece of Wednesday, the BetMGM Queen Mother Champion Chase. John Bon is the 4-5 favourite, ahead of Marine National at 9-2. John Bon, he's unassailable, isn't he?
I think he is. I think there are genuine excuses for him. This is him getting beaten by Constitution Hill. I don't think he's run prior to that at Haydock as a novice hurdler, blew anybody away when Richmond Lake beat him, and he still managed to run reasonable here. And look, that's the level of horse you're talking about. Maybe that's making a stronger argument for Constitution Hill as to how good a horse he is, but I do think that there are excuses. People say you should stop making excuses for horses, but I don't think John Bon has come here for either the Arkle or the Supreme in top form. jammed on a defence past the stands here when El Fabiolo beat him. I think when he beat Calico at Warwick before this, when he was 16-1 on, was arguably his worst run over fences. I think this was a better run than that Warwick run, whereas I think coming to Cheltenham this year, I think he's in rock solid form. Now, the mistake he made here in the Clarence House, to me, is slightly irrelevant because he won't even jump that fence in the Champion Chase. That was on the new course with the rearranged Clarence House, and he stood and he's head of the fourth last fence. So, I mean, you don't jump a fence like that in this race.
The other thing about this was he'd been in a holding pattern for 7 days. He should have run Ascot 7 days earlier. He's a much more mature, calmer horse this year.
Yeah, and look at him, missing him in the Slur. Edward Stone and Boot Hill, unexpected party, who might run well in the Grand Annual back behind him. Pings the last. I think he's become, as he's gotten older, he's become way more mature, and I think he's rock solid. That was a slowly run race, yet he won the dash home. And I do think when you jump him out and let him go and attack his fences, I think he could blow the Champion Chase field apart.
And the Tingle Creek, some people have said, is he better right-handed, better away from Cheltenham? I just can't have it.
Just jammed on and went left there.
I mean, you know, the top 2 mile Grade 1 chases in Britain, Tingle Creek and the Clarence House, are, if they run at their host venues, right-handed. That's just why.
I think he's been good in a couple of slurs as well. I think the first day Nico rode him in a slur here, he was brilliant in November, and look, I think he'll win. I just think he's too good for the opposition. Timeform
thinks he'll win as well. Compare him to the last 5 years. He's already got form good enough to win any of the past 5 editions. The form that Energumen put up again was much better than the other 3, and yet John Bond's already there as well. Let's have a look at Energumen though, because we shouldn't be dismissive of a dual Champion Chase winner.
No, you shouldn't, but again, look at the ground. He's definitely a better horse than Energumen on softer ground. Jumped to the front at the fourth last in 2023, and he's beaten Captain Guinness really impressively. But, and even talking to Paul, this was the Hilly Way. Paul wasn't certain that the ground in Cork on Hilly Way Day was soft enough for him. He beat Banbridge, who unseated at the last. Again, jumped off out to his right, ran across the third last fence. Paul came back out, did the same at the second last, and then did it at the last when he crowded the cross in front of Banbridge. But look, he's definitely a better horse on softer ground, and Paul thought Ascot was too dry for him, and I think Cheltenham is going to be too dry for him.
Still pretty good performance compared to so many of the others in the field, chasing home John Bond in the Clarence House.
Definitely, he's definitely the second best horse in the race, but I'm afraid unless Willie Mullins can get John Poole until he the taps on all night, he's going to struggle.
How about the improvement of Solness? I believe that. What I don't necessarily believe is whether he can pull off the Leopardstown tactics here on the old course at Cheltenham.
I thought he got a very enterprising ride at Leopardstown the last day. I think they're two different rides. JJ Slevin went a decent gallop on him and used a turn of foot away from the second last. Danny Mullins let him roll from the third fence and put a lot of horses under pressure. If Renational had pinged the third last, I think he might actually have beaten him. I don't think that form is up to the English form.
Solness also goes right, and it's okay to be on the hair rail at Leopardstown, but not necessarily here. Well, not here. Betting again, final look at this, whether there's any other angles on the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Marine Nationale, potentially, can you see him? He's second favourite now, which is quite short. £1.50 for me is too big. Second in the Arkle, drying ground, not a bother for him. Solness and Sinistio have obviously franked his form since.
I'm still going to go with 2, 4, 6, 8 runners. Liberty Hunter at 33s to be placed each way.
Yeah, you've been making that case for a while, and he can pick up the pieces in the frame.
I think he can. These will go hard. Solness will be up there. John Bond won't let him go. Energumen will have to follow him. I think plenty of these will fall in the hole, and Liberty Hunter will saunter on there to pick up the each way money.
Don't run it. We know what's going to happen. No need to run the Champion Chase. Right, time to head to sort of wind up for dismount. To that end, let's have Nick joining us. And Nick, is there anything in particular that sort of struck you in the conversations that you've had today?
I was struck by Willie Mullins' thoughts on why Lossie Mouse running in the mare's hurdle. I was also struck by what I perceived to be his lack of complete confidence that she had an odds-on favourites chance, given what happened last time, given the way she worked last week. I was struck by how well Irancy looked down amongst all the horses Willie Mullins is. I was struck by Danny Mullins' comments about Dancing City. And particularly about Carnaquet, who's riding the Supreme Novices tomorrow. I've got the past and the future here, Lydia. On my left, this is Amelia and her pony, Charlie.
This is
This is Freddie. Her pony's Charlie. This is Freddie, who she's riding today. Part of the Racing to School programme today. It's always a lovely part of the Monday before Cheltenham. So many of the local kids from all the local schools in Cheltenham coming down here to just experience the atmosphere. And to my right, Charlotte Alexander with Safir de Roo, who is marching around here like a 5-year-old. He's actually 15 or 16 now? 17, is he? Ran at 5 Cheltenham Festivals, 2nd in the Stayers behind Cole Harden, and 5th in Sizing John's Gold Cup as well. He's got a few more good days left in him, that's for sure. And Charlotte, of course, looked after Denman for many years as well. So some heroes of festivals past, a hero, hopefully, of festivals future, Lydia. And we will see you again in just a few moments' time for live racing.
Yes, exactly. Nick will be on hand from, I think, about 1 o'clock today to bring you the latest news here at Cheltenham. We need to bring you up to date with the poll results from our social poll. We asked you which of the 4 red-hot favourites on the first day would be the one that would be likeliest to be turnover, and Kopek de Board is the one that they've come up with as the answer. So that was the one we didn't mention.
I know, yeah. Shows you what we know, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right then, okay, so you need to know that per day there is a Road to Cheltenham column. That's from me. Ruby and I will be together to talk about the day's racing at the end of the day for each of the 4 days. You'll also be on the morning show as well.
I will be on the morning show, yeah, with a bit of luck. I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, it should be fantastic. Racing TV, obviously, the only place you can watch every day, every race live over the 4 days, and we will be on air from 10 a.m. So that's it. The talking is now over, our talking anyway, and we are very much looking forward to a Cheltenham Festival. Whatever you're doing, make sure you enjoy it, and thanks for watching us.